We're ready.
Thank you.
You probably need to cool off, Steve.
We're ready.
That's okay, I'm glad you did anyway. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a City Council workshop at the City Council of Satellite Beach, January 9th, approximately 6:30. The workshop is to interview board applicants. And with that, we'll take you one at a time as they appear in our packet. Come up, sit down, and we'll just ask you a question. Mike Badarak. Mike, please.
That'll make me go first, right?
You're lucky.
We knew you were most ready.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mike, as we do, tell us a little bit about yourself. You've lived here and your back history, like to tell us, and why you applied to be on board. Thank you.
Well, you already know me. I've been here since I was about 5 years old. Grew up here in Satellite Beach, and grew up on DeSoto Parkway where my parents, and I live about 3 blocks from that now. So run my business here. Went to Satellite High School in Delora. Played all my sports here, and my kids are currently going to Satellite in Delora now. And I coach football for the high school for Satellite. And the reason I put in for the board really was, a lot of the stuff that has taken place. I don't want to hash into it, but I just want to do what's best for the community and the people that are in it. And the bottom line is my heart's in it. I don't have a lot of knowledge of serving on boards. I haven't served on a board. But I grew up in this community. My heart's in the community. I love the people. I love the way the atmosphere is in the community. And I just want to make sure that's preserved and continues the way we're going. I'm not for big change in Satellite Beach. I like the old way of doing things, kind of. I grew up here, and I saw how valuable that was. Being a kid here and getting to grow up here, and how much better my life is for it, the way the city, from police to fire, public works, and the way everything's taken care of. So I want to make sure that that's preserved no matter what we do going forward.
Mike, we're over here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just addressing. Sorry, Lorraine.
Mike, would you please, that microphone, just pull it towards you so we record, and that way it'll make it easier for everybody to hear. Okay, who would like to start?
Well, first of all, Mike, I'd like to, thank you for stepping up. I've known you for quite a while, and I'm just glad to see you're on board with getting involved with the city. I think you'll make a great contribution. So that's the first thing I want to offer. Second thing is you've got 2 boards checked here. You don't have a particular preference, or do you have a preference on one of these?
No, sir. I just put in for what was open at the time, and what I thought was, more of a beneficial board to the city, or more of an influencing board of the city.
Okay.
To just make a little bit more of a difference.
So you'd be comfortable with either direction?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Wherever,
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Mike, why the Comprehensive Planning Advisory Board?
Well, I think it has, again, it has a lot to do with the way things are done in the city. And, not that my one vote can influence it, but I can bring a few ideas to the table that, and I think that may not be out there. And I just want to make sure that it's done the Satellite Beach way. Some of the things that have transpired over the last few months, I didn't really care for, and I thought we were going in a different direction than what Satellite Beach was my Satellite Beach was brought up on. And, I saw, people arguing things like that, and that's not the Satellite Beach that I grew up in. And I wanted to make sure that, hey, whatever decisions are made, it's in the best interest of this community, and the people that live here every day and have to, call the police or call the fire department. I think those are important decisions, and what's done with the city and some of the things that just with the area north of Satellite High School there. There's a couple ideas that we can use. I know there's a lot of, with the Air Force Base, we have to watch what, they'll allow us to do and things like that. But, I think that's an important part of our city and would be a great place for us to have revenue and we need to capitalize on that, whatever's in the stipulations provided by the Air Force Base.
The CPAB meets once a month. Are you available to have regular attendance?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Just to clarify, the CPAB doesn't necessarily make short-term plans.
Right.
Basically, as a resident who's been around for a long time, you know the history. They're looking out for future issues that the city might be looking at, and I think you'd probably be a good person to be on that board, because you have a lot of history with the city, and you kind of know the direction that we've been moving in for the last 50 years, and I think that pretty much be a pretty good fit.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Do you have any questions of us?
No.
Because we have all the answers. Shirley.
I know you do.
And I've known Mike for a long time. Spent a lot of time with him, so I don't really need to ask him much questions. We've talked quite a bit. So, Mike, thanks very much. Excuse me, just one question. And I don't have it in front of me, when does that board meet, Lenore?
It's the fourth Monday, isn't it?
Fourth Monday, okay. And that fits your schedule?
Right, Monday's easy.
Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate
thanks,
it.
guys.
Yep. Okay, next up, John Fergus.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You're new to the city, aren't you?
I've been here short.
Oh, okay. I don't have any questions of John.
I don't have any questions,
John,
other than thank you.
that's exactly what I was going to say. I appreciate you stepping back in, John, and you stepped out for a while, and I'm glad to see you want to get back involved again, and I've heard that comment echoed down to my right, so I have no other questions, Mr. Mayor, or comments.
John, thank you. I think this is going to be a pretty important board here coming up with the Patrick property and some other things that we're going to be doing. And thank you, and appreciate the work always. Also, just to let everyone know, the candidates, we will be doing the board vote. I think it's agenda item 14, so you're more than welcome to stick around if you want. I don't have to tell you that, but I just want to mention it. So, thank you. Alan? Good evening. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks. Name's Alan Lamont, and I live at 698 Caribbean Drive. Been there 19 years. My two children went through Satellite High, and I recently, 6 months ago, retired from Harris with them 28 years. Before that, I was with Volusia County School System, and before that, I was in the Peace Corps for 2 years, and then after that, Florida State. So I've, for the bulk of my life, been here, raised the kids here, and have enjoyed this town. And it was time for me to give back. So after retiring, that's what I felt like I wanted to do.
Great. Thank you very much. Lori, would you like to go in?
Where were you in the Peace Corps?
Kenya,
Kenya.
2 years.
Interesting tour, I'm sure.
It was.
You have checked 3 boards, but not stated a preference. Do you have a preference among those 3?
No, I do not. And actually it came with a sort of a priority after thinking about it a little bit more after the application. And I know there may not be some of the openings, but my preference was the Community Redevelopment Agency, number 1, Comprehensive Planning Board, number 2, and number 3, Recreation.
So you're scratching code enforcement?
Yes. It's on my priority, but down the list.
Just the one question I have, Alan. Regarding the Recreation Board, what do you think your strengths and weaknesses would be for that board? Because they're quite different than the other ones you've checked.
Correct. One of the things that I have always felt that this city was a leader in the recreation facilities, personnel, and I want to see that continued. Whether I'm on a board or not, I would always fight for recreation in this town. I use the facilities, everything from the ocean to tennis courts to the roads when I'm running on the roads. So I feel like I want to keep it strong. I feel like it is strong, I want to keep it that way.
That's all I have. Thank you. Thank you.
And what is your interest in the Comprehensive Planning Advisory Board?
And as the gentleman before me already stated, I think I have the same interest. I want to see long-term, comprehensive, thoughtful growth for the city. I've seen that. I want to continue to see it. I think I would be a good person on that board. I have worked with many large projects, long-term projects that take a long time to come to fruition. And so I think I'd be a benefit there.
Do you have an opinion about the direction that board has been guiding the city up to now? Do you have any sense of that? If you don't.
Yes, I do. Well, that's only the sense that people who were there 15 years ago must have done a good job.
Oh.
Because the city's in good shape. And, but as far as short-term history, I'm not going to look in the past. I'd rather look in the future.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you very much for, for all you've done in the past and
my
what
pleasure.
you're looking to do in the future, because I think, we need people like you to step up and, especially stepping into a board like the Comprehensive Planning and Zoning Board. I mean, it's a forward-looking board that is looking to continue the legacy that we've pretty much established here, and the quality of life that our city residents enjoy and want to maintain. So thank you.
Are you available on the fourth Monday of each month?
Yes.
And you would be able to attend regularly?
Yes.
Any further questions?
No, sir.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen,
Appreciate it.
thanks.
Okay, Greg, thank you.
Hi.
Good evening.
My name is Greg Smith. I've only been a citizen here in Satellite Beach for over a year, but I've kind of been a member of the city for 17 years. I'm a teacher at Satellite High School. I have been since 1995. I teach English, I coach football, coach soccer, sponsor National Honor Society, and I've been very involved in the school, and by my involvement in the school, I've had a lot of involvement in the city, and with the citizens, with the students, with the families. And now that I've been living here, I moved from Vieira, recently married. I have two stepchildren at home. I want to be part and put more, some of my time more into this side of it, into the city, instead of just going through the school.
Right. Mark? Obviously, Greg, you spent a lot of time at Satellite High School doing a number of different activities. Would it be your intention to go ahead and continue those activities in conjunction with any volunteer efforts you do with the city?
Absolutely. I mean, that's, to me, this would just be an extension of much what I do with the school. And, I've already, with organizations that I sponsor, I've already worked with, with Carry on numerous events as far as getting volunteers. I mean, we've pumped volunteers, or I've helped pump volunteers into programs since I've been at Satellite High School, whether it be the Founders Day Parade, you name it, in the rec department, through Carry.
Just one other question, Mr. Mayor. What do you see as far as the rec department goes and recreation as a whole? Have you got a vision for where we could go in the future?
Well, I'd like to see community, the community involvement, overall, not just with the youth, but I think we always need to look at the summer programs that we're offering. I want to make sure that our students have something to do over the summertime, and I think that many times it needs to come from them instead of coming from us. I think that we need to utilize and work with them to find out, okay, what programs would you be interested in? I'd also, just like I'd like to utilize the relationship I have with the schools into, strengthening certain tutoring programs we have at the rec department, and just, being able to be a liaison between, I think, the school and what the rec department does, or the library.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Greg, I see the fit with the library board and the recreation board. Are there any other boards that you would be interested in?
Well, I applied to two boards that I felt I'd be able to directly contribute, but I also feel very comfortable with, where I don't, there's no learning curve there. I think I'm already bringing something to the table rather than having to sit and listen. I can be active right away, and that's why I chose those two positions over others. I mean, this is an opportunity for me to get my feet wet with the city.
Okay.
Greg, thanks for stepping up, and thanks for moving to Satellite Beach too. You already obviously have, experience being here in the school system, so, you've got stepchildren that, they're here and they're involved in the school system too, so we appreciate that. At this point in time, looking at the list here, there aren't any positions available on the library board.
Okay.
And there's one position on the rec board.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why Lorraine was asking the question, because, we have several applicants that are looking at the rec board, and
Right.
if we can steer someone to something else that, they might also be interested in, I think that was where her direction was going.
Okay.
But thank you, for volunteering, and I hope we can fit you in somewhere.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What about Sampson's Island?
I didn't really consider. I guess when I thought I saw the position on the library board, that's why I checked off both boxes. But
Well, Sampson's Island certainly has a recreational aspect to it.
absolutely, yeah.
And in your position, maybe you could drum up even more interest in getting students over there, and just think about
No,
it.
it's definitely something to think about. I mean, we have a marine biology program at Satellite, and I know the previous teacher. We have a new teacher now we're going to have a transitional teacher now, but the teacher was there before. She was very active in it, and it's something I didn't even consider it. I'd be interested.
There was a recreation board meeting last night, and I think there's going to be a new push of different things hopefully being able to go on at Sampson's Island.
Right.
So, if that's something that you might be, leaning toward, there's going to be a lot of opportunities there to do with kids exactly what you've been talking about doing outside of the realm of a structured, more or less kind of basketball, football, or anything like that.
Right.
I think there's a lot of opportunities out there if it's something that you might be interested in. If you were moved in that direction and you found out after a year it wasn't really your cup of tea, if there's positions available in the library board or the recreation board, we could make you aware of them if you were looking to transition into something else. Wherever we would put you, you're not locked in there forever.
Right.
But it would definitely get you into a different aspect of what the recreation department also does besides just the regular rec programs. So,
Right.
just food for thought.
Okay.
All right, any
So
further-
would you be willing to be considered for Sampson's Island, or do you want to think it over?
Sure.
Either answer is okay.
Yes. No. I'd like.
No pressure.
No pressure. Not from us.
Oh, there's people here.
So is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Any further questions? I know Greg known him for a while, so thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on. Nancy?
Jim Stegall.
Jim doesn't, what we found is Jim doesn't live in the city, so therefore.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hey, Nancy.
How are you?
Thank you.
I've been a resident of the city since May of 1979. I retired 1 year ago with 31 years in military recreation from Patrick Air Force Base. I was arts and crafts director, but also ran various car shows, art shows, etc. As soon as I found out I was retiring, I did contact Carrie, and I'd not met her before because I was a conflict. Because being military, I could not be part of the recreation area in the city. So I contacted Carrie, and I have volunteered several times with her and attend the recreation boards and subcommittees. I believe that my background can help the city with various items. The city recreation department's got a great reputation, probably one of the best in Brevard County, if not Central Florida.
Thank you. Lorraine, would you like to?
Well, I'm impressed that you have 31 years' experience in the recreation field. And by the way, my first real job after I got out of college was in Army Special Services in Korea.
Oh.
So you're probably familiar with that.
Same thing.
Have you, are you aware of what our rec board has been doing or does generally, or?
I have attended some of the board meetings. In fact, I was at last night's meeting,
Okay.
and we were discussing the fees, but also about marketing the dog park, skate park areas to get more participation. Carrie's got some great ideas, as well as the rec board members, and I feel that I can contribute to that as well.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Nancy was at the meeting last night. It was my first official meeting as a liaison to a board, so I showed up at the rec board meeting last night, and she was there. And I think that, the experience that she brings is definitely beneficial to the city. Nancy, thank you very much for volunteering, and thank you for already taking an interest by showing up at these meetings, to at least kind of get an idea of what the board does. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Now, Nancy, I haven't had a chance to meet you, but I've noticed you've been attending council
I do
meetings and that sort of.
every time,
So
yes.
which is really great to see you involved, and I echo their comments. I'd like to see us get you involved in this as soon as we can. And thank you for your participation, just attending the meetings. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks. Always see you there.
Okay.
Appreciate it very, very much. Thank you. No other further applicants or any other business. I'll adjourn this meeting. 7 o'clock, we will reconvene the city council. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting, date January 9th, 2013, of the city of Satellite Beach. Approximate time, 7 o'clock. Will you please rise for a moment of silence and a pledge led by Councilman Gott.
Would you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Council, I'd like to move agenda item 7 up and take that now, and that's to report on a potential Brevard County School Board closing, if that is
Sounds good.
acceptable. Yep. Okay. With that, Amy Canisi with the school board is here. Canisi, thank you. Canisi, sorry. Thank you. And if you want, wherever you're more comfortable.
I have my teacher shoes on. I feel like I'm walking
Okay.
around. I got to talk with my hands here. So, well, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you. There's been a lot of information reported over the past couple of months about where we're going with our school budgets and school closing, and I really want to bring you up to date on where we're at as of today. Now, some of my comments, I will have to say, are my opinion. The board is very split right now on what direction we're going to go. So it'll be very obvious where I stand on issues as I go through the different areas we're making cuts. And I want you to stop me as we go along if you have questions. So let's start back in November, after the election, and the half-cent sales tax did not pass. We actually missed getting that passed by 8,000 votes. It was less than 1%. It was very, very close. But as a result of that, on that Friday, the superintendent announced he was recommending 4 schools for closure. South Lake up in Titusville, Clear Lake in Cocoa, Gardendale and Merritt Island, and Sea Park here beachside. We really didn't have a whole lot of information about how they came to that. There was not a board workshop prior to that. It was him and staff that came up with those recommendations. Since then, there's also been additional cuts that have come out. The target number the board has to get to when what we think our budget numbers are going to be, because as you guys know as well as we do, legislature isn't going to release our budget numbers until May. But we have some pretty good ideas on where it's going. We're thinking we're going to need to cut $30.9 million. That's the bottom line we're happy to get to. And the school closures really only make up about $3.5 million of that. It's a very small percentage. It's what's getting the most media coverage right now, but there are actually a lot more cuts that are going to be affecting school services. So I want to start with those first because I feel like the closings are what's getting everyone's attention. One of the big ticket items is that our secondary teachers, that would be Delora and Satellite, are teaching 5 of 7. They get 2 planning periods. One of the items that will be changed is that we'll go to 6 of 7. That will be a reduction of about 200 teachers countywide doing that. Right now, if they want to teach 6 of 7, they get a supplement to do that. We're now going to be mandating that district-wide. Sports will become play to participate. We're looking at $100 for the first sport, and he gets $50 for every sport after that, with a sliding fee scale for free and reduced lunch. Choice school applications. As you know, we have a very robust school choice program. There will now be an annual application fee, and there may be some other fees associated with that. Building usage. We try to keep our buildings open and available to our communities to use whenever possible, but we're still putting out more money to keep those open than we get coming in. So we're looking at anywhere from a 20 to 50% increase in fees for people to access those facilities. We're looking at cutting media assistants, so there'll be less support. There'll be media specialists. There won't be the assistants. We will no longer be paying for every junior to take the ACT, which sounds small, but when every child took it, I call them children, I guess they're 17, but we found that there were students that then saw that they could go on to college, that they did have the scores to go out and find financial aid, and we made a real difference for some students. We have those changes. We're cutting guidance staff. We're cutting, like I said, literally $30 million worth of programs. We're going to see a reduction in strings programs. We're going to see some reduction in sports. You're going to see a reduction in lots of things that we've taken for granted through the years that are no longer going to be there. A good example is we have afforded all of our middle school families an opportunity to sit down one-on-one with a counselor to look at what their secondary experience is going to be, because there's so many choices. When you and I were in school, we had 2 choices. We could go vocational route or we could go college, and that was about it, or drop out. There's literally 50 CTE programs out there. There's a variety of programs for students to participate in. That is no longer something we can afford to do. We're reducing guidance staff. We can't do that anymore. So those are the big items. And there's a list on our district website. It's just www.brevardschools.org. And right at the top of the page, there's links that will go into more detail about what those cuts are and how they're going to be affected. But I think people are going to be really surprised at the number of things we're going to go to in order to make up that $30.1 million. Now, the big item on contention is school closures. And the board is very, very split on this right now because it's a balance of programs versus neighborhood schools. My philosophy is that choice schools came after traditional neighborhood schools. We ended up opening choice school programs not because we weren't doing good things in our neighborhood schools, but you guys will recall 2 years ago our neighborhood schools were overcrowded, and we had some schools that were underutilized and some that had, like Satellite High, 32 portables back behind them. Those days have changed, and at the time we did choice programs, we did that so parents would voluntarily leave their neighborhood school to go to a choice school. It was cheaper than adding on. We did such a great sales job of choice schools that people now don't want to come back. And so we're having to balance. When do we look at choice programs? When do we look at neighborhood schools? And that's a bone of contention with board members right now. My philosophy is last in, first out. But that's been my personal opinion, and I'm a parent of choice school parent. So I know the advantages of choice school. So how that affects Sea Park? Because I'm looking at the whole picture here, and you guys really want to know how that can affect beachside backyard.
The problem is not that Satellite Beach schools are underpopulated. We're not the problem. The problem is Cocoa Beach has 2 elementary schools that are under capacity. They have Cape View and they have Roosevelt. So board members and staff have determined that the best utilization of facilities is to close Sea Park, send 150 kids on a bus up to Roosevelt, young is 5 years old, away from their neighborhood school that they walk to and their after-school and before-school program. Then they're going to take students on the north side of Cocoa Beach and ship them up to Cape View. So it's kind of a domino effect. That will also cause Holland to reach full capacity because we'll send a good bulk of them down to Holland. The issue with that is, I don't know if you're aware, but Holland, on its own, it's not technically a choice school, but they, as a school, came together and they all got certified as gifted and talented. They have a full-time gifted program that none of our other elementary schools offer. You don't have to be gifted to participate in it, to the point that we have 160 families that have voluntarily gone to Holland under our choice program. They will no longer be renewed when we close Sea Park. So the program will continue, but we have 160 families that will no longer be able to be a part of that. And some of that will also go down into Surfside. So the other part of that picture is that there is a very high likelihood that Sea Park would be turned into an adult education center. Because that comes from a different stream of dollars, it still is saving dollars from operating that we need, even if we bring the adult ed in there. And by adult ed, I'm not talking about alternative school like the Abeyance Center. I'm not talking the community programs like we have at the Schechter Center. These would be for students that need to go back and get their GED. They dropped out of school, and they're now coming back. Or they want to get their high school diploma but don't want to come back to the high school to do it. So it's not, I think some people are thinking we're looking at an alternative school going in there. It's not an alternative school. It is truly an adult education center. There's no buses. These are adults that drive themselves in and out. There are daytime as well as evening programs. Now, where the issue of contention is for me is, number one, I disagree with the decision on how they're closing beachside schools, and choice schools were never taken into consideration. I think you all got a letter from me, or at least at some point. Lenore, did I send one to them? And it was, do you guys remember getting a letter to me about choice schools and Freedom 7 at some point? We never had a board discussion about why choice schools were never considered. So I have a lot of questions, so I'm going to tell you my number one reason I'm opposing school closures is the board has been very vocal that we're only doing it to save money. It's not good for kids. Every single board member has agreed in that. At the end of November, 2 board members came forward and said they don't want Cocoa students to have to leave Cocoa to go to junior high. We have plenty of room at Space Coast. We have plenty of room at Jefferson. So they are proposing that we spend $1 million at Cocoa High School and make it 7 through 12. That $1 million would keep 2 of our 4 elementaries open. And I cannot get an answer from anybody that if we're doing that in Cocoa because it's good for kids and we don't want Cocoa kids for 2 years to leave and come back, why is it okay for Satellite kids to go to Cocoa Beach for 7 years and be disjointed from their community and not given the same consideration? Gardendale and Southlake, the same thing. So we have a very large vote of contention that is yet to play out. And so I'm here to tell you, I think it's likely that I'll lose the fight to keep Sea Park open, but as I tell people, if that lady is not done yet, she's warming up, and background music is playing, but I'm in this for the long haul. I'm planning to fight the closure of Sea Park because of some of the other off directions they're going. And that's my editorial, my personal opinion. I always want to say I'm only one of 5 board members, and I think right now we're at a 2-2 impasse. We have a 5th board member that gets to either play 0 or 0, depending on where you stand with the view. So that's the good, the bad, and the ugly, and a lot of ugly.
What can we do to help you?
What I would really like to do, I'm honest, at the last board meeting, we had city council in Titusville come as a group. They sat there, they spoke, they had a spokesperson. Cocoa Beach did the same thing. It carried a lot of weight when the city came as an entourage and said, you need to look at what the impact on our community is going to be. That this is something that is not just about reallocating space. This is an economic issue when you're trying to revitalize a community. When you're taking a school where 90% of the kids walk, 90% of the kids walk to Sea Park, and now you're going to put at least half of them on a bus and send them up to Cocoa Beach, which is taking them out of their feeder chain. These are kids who will come back and go to Delora. They'll go to Satellite. These are the kids that want to play soccer and t-ball and all of that. They're part of the Satellite community. I don't care where the line goes. Anything south of Pineda, those kids are all together. And it just really upsets me that for 7 years, we're going to take this one group and put them on a bus and send them north. And we were all here during 9/11 where A1A closed. The only way to get up to Cocoa Beach was to go over to US 1, up to Cocoa, Merritt Island, and back down. And so if we ever have a military situation, half of this school is going to be an hour to an hour and a half. Right now, with just going A1A, they're looking at a 50-minute bus ride.
You know, I don't think they're taking into consideration the possible development of Pelican Coast. And if you're telling me that 2 of the schools that are in Cocoa Beach now are below average students, I don't understand what the thought process is of closing one of our schools when it seems like one of their schools should be closed.
The argument they give us is that we have 2. Cocoa Beach would say they only have 1 school, Roosevelt, that Freedom 7 doesn't count. Cape View would say they only have 1 school. What the talk has been is, well, we have 3.
Yeah,
so we ought to be willing to give up one of them.
Our schools are still filled.
They are.
And they're going to continue to be filled because when we do whatever development that we're talking about on Pelican Coast, I'm sure we're going to have more residential units there. And there are going to be families there that are going to be looking at the school system, and they're going to be moving to Satellite Beach thinking their kids might be going to, you know, either Holland or Surfside, and Sea Park's not going to be there, and they're going to end up busing those people, their children up to Cocoa Beach.
And to give you a history lesson that I can't seem to get the new people up there to realize is one of the reasons this hurt Satellite Beach is many years ago, the base kids used to all come to Sea Park, to the point where after Hurricane Andrew, we had a bunch of portables out behind Sea Park. Roosevelt started coming down in enrollment, so did Cape View. So they took the base kids, shipped them up to Roosevelt. So we've already had one group of kids moved out of here to keep a Cocoa Beach school open. Now they're asking to take another group, and I've argued to get those kids back because the military kids, they come back to Delora and Satellite. You want your families, especially your military families, to be in the same feeder chain. So, you know, I get a lot of people telling me I'm just on the Satellite Beach bandwagon because I live here and love it and so forth, and I've told people it's not because of that. I don't think it's good for kids, as a student as young as 5 years old, to have to get on the bus at 7 a.m., which means they're up at 6, to get to school, and they may be on the bus by 6:45, and then not get home till 3:30, 4 o'clock. And then if that parent has to work, how's that parent supposed to take the advantage of the before school and after school child care program when it's up in Cocoa Beach? And those types of things. None of that has been into consideration because it was facilities that planned the move. And I love Dane Theodore to death. Some of you guys that know Dane, but he looks at kids as widgets. And his job was to move the widgets around so that we have the best utilization of space. And that's what he's paid for. That's great. Parents and educators needed to weigh in on that. And that's where I'm fighting that from a widget standpoint it makes sense. From a children's and educational standpoint it makes no sense. So I'm still fighting. I'm going to continue to fight the good fight.
When's the next meeting that you...
January 22nd, but I would encourage you tomorrow night, there is a workshop to look at boundaries. And it is really imperative that Satellite Beach people, it's at 6:30 up at Vieira. There's a rally, parents are doing some rallies at 5:30, and staff is going to be there to show you the boundaries because there's another scenario that could happen. The board members heard my cries of alarm of don't send Satellite kids to Cocoa Beach. So there is another plan that would keep everybody south of Pineda. But that means every school from Holland down to Gemini would change boundaries. We would do a shift all the way down. And so people need to realize that that is a very light, that could happen too on the 22nd. So you need to take a look at what the boundaries are. Look at the 150, and I would encourage you to look at the demographics of the group they've chosen to send up to Cocoa Beach. I've expressed my dismay that I feel a certain demographic has been targeted. And I'm going to be as politically correct as that I think they picked the easiest group that they thought they'd get the least amount of conflict from. Once again, that's Amy Nisi's editorial opinion.
What are the school boards, do they do studies on the demographics of, like, say, a Cocoa Beach scenario? Are they programmed into seeing more growth of elementary school-age children?
Yes. But once again, it's not south of the Pineda that's not growing. It's north of the Pineda that's declining, and their way of fixing it is to send our kids north. They don't like it when I say that, but that's what's happened. They already did that with the military families a few years ago. Now they're doing it again with the north part of Satellite Beach, and I see that tearing this community apart. You just got through talking about how we have the dust rec department and all the things that we do here, and when you take those families north of the base, they lose out.
Any other questions?
I do. You talked about 30.9 million short on the budget and about 200 teachers losing their jobs.
Minimum.
Okay. And the question that's always asked, which I'll throw out there, is as far as administrative restructuring or reduction, can you speak to what's been done with that as far as the layers of
Over the
management?
past 5 years, that's where we've taken all the hits. A lot of people say, that we must have fat at the top, cut at the top. We need to be more efficient. And Andy Ziegler at a workshop last month, I thought, said it very well, that there's a point where you cut to be efficient, but there's a point if you cut too much, then you start being inefficient again. And as Dr. Bingley said at one board meeting, we could cut every administrator up there in Viera. We're only talking $3 million. And we still have to find, that means the schools would have to take care of payroll. They'd have to take care of health insurance. They'd have to take care of all the credentialing we have, all the stuff that has to take place. So 25 to 30% of the hits in 5 years, since I became a board member, administration has gone down 30%. We just have nowhere else left to go. Now, there is talk from a group that wants to put the sales tax back on the ballot for this fall. I personally am opposed to that because that costs $800,000 to do that. I said if they want to raise the money to do that, I'm fine with that, but that $800,000 would keep CPark open another year. So I said I don't support that. I will continue, as I said a year ago when I started speaking to some of you, 2014 was the year to ask for this because that's the governor's race. Governor's race is big educational topics because that's a big part of the budget. Education is all over the news. It's a better fit, and it doesn't cost us to put it on the ballot in 2014. So that will be where my push comes. There seems to be enough community support. They want us to try it again, but I'm still looking at 2014. But if a school closes, once it closes, it's done. That's what I've told people. I want to look at some of the other cuts because you can end a type of program, but if we get the half cent in a couple years, it's very easy to bring that program back. You never reopen a neighborhood school. Only once in a great, Freedom 7 is the only example of that, where we've ever reopened a closed school.
Let me ask you another question. As far as the adult education programs that they're envisioning there, where are these people coming from? Because I don't think
They're not, and that's my other issue with that. They're not. In fact, if you read the paper recently, we have the highest graduation rate in all of Brevard County. It's here beachside. Where it is do you know where the Clear Channel is across from like Big Lots and so forth? There's space there that we lease for the Adult Ed Center. The idea of moving it to one of the schools is that we no longer have to pay that lease. So it's already there. They're driving to a Melbourne location. But you're right, the people that will be coming to it are not our beachside families.
Brian, any questions?
So the meeting on the 22nd is a
Final vote.
school board meeting?
I encourage you tomorrow night, if you can't do that, go up and staff will be there. You can see where the boundaries and start sharing your concerns about, where these lines, if they were to close CPark, sending kids north to Cocoa Beach is not a good idea. The final vote will be January 22nd, and we'll probably have a marathon meeting like you guys did a month or so ago, well after midnight. I fully expect to be there well after midnight that night. But that's when the decision gets made. And as I said, I would not bet on this one. We're 2-2 right now with the fifth board member.
Who's the fifth board member?
Mr. Ziegler. Dr. Krupp and I are supporting keeping schools open. Dr. Murray and Ms. Henderson have been, from the very beginning, supporting closing all 4 schools, and Mr. Ziegler hasn't decided. I'm not giving anything away that's outside of sunshine.
Will you all be at the meeting tomorrow evening, or will it just be staff?
It'll just be staff, but we will all be there at the 22nd. And we give elected officials, we put them at a different place on the agenda for them. If we know you're coming, I can make sure, because there'll probably be hundreds of people signed up to speak, I can make sure that you get put on a special place if I know you're coming.
And this is the meeting on the 22nd?
22nd at 5:30.
And what would be beneficial for us to come and say or do?
All the rationales, and I could meet with you privately. Some of the rationale that I think has not been looked at, that it should, that I see that this is a Band-Aid on a bigger problem. My concern is we're going to continue to grow here south of the Pineda. We don't have places to put those kids outside of portables. I think we need to relook at how we're doing this a little bit differently. Sea Park's always been the one they've considered cutting for the years, as long as I've been on the board and beforehand, but things have changed. Just because it's always been considered doesn't mean it should be considered now. It's at 90% capacity. We're over 90% capacity at Sea Park, and we're closing it to get 2 schools north of here up over 65% capacity. It's not because Sea Park is low in enrollment. It's because 2 schools north of here are low in enrollment. That's what I have a problem with.
I know that, I believe Mayor Ferrante, when he was mayor, wrote a letter on behalf of the city.
Yes.
I think if you could articulate with Jeff and Frank and get Frank to author another letter that we can carry with us on the 22nd. What time does that meeting start?
5:30. And if you feel like contacting a board member, I think I gave you the name of the person that would probably benefit from hearing from you. Andy?
Also, Jeff, you went to a meeting today, and tell them how is it going to affect us in other ways. We have local agreement with the school board.
Yes, sir. I went to the Capital Outlay Committee, the COC committee meeting today, and the unanimous vote of the committee members to say to the staff was that because we don't have the proper information to make any kind of decision because the procedures weren't really followed the way they should have been, the committee made a unanimous vote to say to the staff to present to the board to say,
get it right.
Please do not make any decisions until we go through the process that's been outlined in our interlocal agreement. And once that process is followed, and the board, which by the way is comprised of all of the officials, all the city officials from each of the communities, and once that information, or once that procedure is followed properly and that information is given out, then the board can make a recommendation as far as what to do, how to save the money in other places possibly, to close or not to close. So their recommendation was don't make any decisions right now until we go through that process properly and are educated properly.
Also, one of our big issues is going to be development, because we are in that local agreement with the schools at that 110 acres. If you close Sea Park, and we have a project that could benefit the city there,
You've taken away seats that...
you could shut, the way the flow chart is that it goes to you for
That's right.
approval, and you don't have the seats, you will not approve it, and then our projects get shut down, and we lose the revenue or the ability to develop right now.
And Mr. Mayor, that was brought up, that exactly just the way you said it was brought up at the meeting, and it wasn't really well received with respect to our concerns. It was kind of that's not really a problem, and you won't have a problem. And that was kind of it, and then it was glossed over, although it was brought up several times, but that was mentioned.
Yeah. The perception I get is that on the beach side, we've got money. Well, we can just figure these things out, and I can't seem to get people to realize we have the same economic issues facing every other part of the county, but they get discounted, Jeff, because exactly what happened to you is what happens to me as a board member. So what you just said, Frank, in terms of the economic, I would love to see that in writing.
Yeah, I think
I
put
think
all this on a letter.
when that in writing, and also I would think we need to have Jim take a look at that agreement that we have, just so that we're proactive and not saying we're going to use it against anybody. We really need to see how that agreement's written, where we stand in that agreement. If we're going to have
I would
the
love being able
CRA
to have that slow
development,
this
which this
down.
land is a portion of, we're going to need to know where we stand there. So.
Oh, Jim, if you can find something, I'll take you out to lunch.
Amy, thank you for coming, and I apologize for being late. Amy and I have had quite a few discussions about this, particularly since I have one still in elementary school and lots of friends that have children at Sea Park. So I do think the best thing is to present a letter to them, but it would be nice if one of us could be available to read the letter and present it to them at the meeting.
I mean, the whole councils came, and they actually stood up as a group. And it was very powerful. It's powerful when there's more, if all of you can't come, at least 3 of you, I know you have to be careful how you do it because of sunshine, but if you're all just attending the meeting, you can have somebody as your spokesperson. It was very powerful when Cocoa Beach was there, when you have 100 speakers in one night, you've got to have a way to make yourself stand out. And I'm recommending whatever you can do to stand out. Bring Satellite Beach people with you. All wear the same color shirt. It works for the library boards. We can, pick a color and wear it and go from there. But whatever you can do to support Satellite Beach.
I'm available that night.
By yourself.
And I would be-
Are we all available?
Yeah.
I don't have to work with it.
It seems to me that we should prepare a letter or a paper, whatever you want to call it, as detailed as possible, and that should be given to the school board prior to that meeting, so you all will have had a chance
That would be
to
good.
digest it. And then we can be there and have a spokesperson that summarizes the highlights of that paper and then is available there to take questions.
Okay. I apologize. What time was the meeting?
5:30 on the
Oh, okay,
22nd.
no problem.
And Lorraine, I have to agree with you on that, because I think if that information and that position's made available to Amy before that meeting, that allows her to speak to the issues as well, rather than just us as a single group, if that's all right with you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking for anything and everything I can to slow this down.
Okay.
Are we talking about making the letter available to every one of the board members and the school board? I mean, you're
Yeah,
talking about
prior to the meeting, yeah.
prior to the meeting.
Given the
Not just-
fact that
not
of
just
all the
Amy,
speakers,
all of
I
them.
think it's good that they get it ahead of time so they read it, but I would also bring hard copies with you, or I can bring them. I always tell people, give it to you ahead of time, bring copies with you, just make sure they have it in front of them, so,
And I'll volunteer to write the thing.
okay? Well, and I'll be happy to get together with you and point out some things and kind of know where some better buttons to push than others.
Okay, good.
So I just appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I wish I had better news. I want to come and talk to you when I have good things to talk about.
Well, this helps us tremendous, and we need to be proactive here in a lot of ways. And what I'm going to do, if you don't mind, stick around just for a minute, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Oh, sure.
And if there's any other questions the public might have for you.
Oh, I love being in the audience as opposed to up here, so that's fine.
Great. Okay, this-
What's the longest that children have to ride a bus now? Elementary school.
School, though?
That sounds like an easy question. If it's to their neighborhood school, we're talking 30 minutes or less. If they go to a choice school or they are going because of an IEP and a special education issue, some of those students may be to 50 to 55 minutes. The majority of ours are under 45 minutes. So this is pushing the top of the scale. We're just not talking about kids on a short ride. We're talking about getting on the bus before 7 o'clock in the morning to be at school for 8. Usually when I put it that way, it makes more sense than saying, people are like, what's a bus ride or so forth. You got to factor in the getting up early, trying to get your kid to have breakfast at 6:30 in the morning and putting them on the bus.
And what's your deadline for having backup material for your meeting packets?
Oh, we do it up until the actual meeting. I can hand carry stuff in.
Oh.
Yeah, but I think we
But-
want to
but,
get it there
yeah,
before
how-
that. Yeah.
If you get it to me, I can get it to our board secretary who will get it out to everyone
By
immediately.
when? By when would you need it?
It would be nice to have it on that Friday before.
Okay.
That's the 18th.
That would be helpful because a lot of us do a lot of our research over the weekend.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm going to now open it up for public comment. John?
John Fergus, 135. Next week, council has a workshop on the comp plan. When that recommendation came from CPAD last February, almost a year ago, it removed the school elements. Our consultant since then, because of activities that have taken place, events, recommended at our last meeting that we keep it in, which is what the recommendation that came to you guys from last week's meeting. I would suggest that that may need to be looked at next week, and it might be an opportune time now to ask Ms. Nisi where we might go on that. Because I believe there is leverage there, even if all we're doing is threatening to remove that element.
Actually, I'd like to clarify. The element, it was recommended that that element be removed from the comp plan, and we decided that we wanted to keep it in. And Ms. Nisi actually came and spoke, if you'd like to elaborate on that, to keep it in the comp plan, so it was not removed from the comp plan.
Are you talking about the school concurrency?
Yes.
Yeah, the comp plan at one point came before you. I came because I got a call, I think it was from you.
Yes, it was
saying,
from me.
do you have a problem with moving concurrency? And I was like, in a panic and got here because exactly where we're at tonight, if you didn't have that concurrency in there,
then we're not making a deal on how many seats we're going to keep available. And I think I even said that night that if we're not careful, they're going to overcrowd our beachside schools as they spread out. And that's, I hate to say, I foretold that one, and that's exactly what's happening. So that, my understanding is it's still in the comp plan.
It is. It's still in the comp plan.
And so, yeah, I would be real interested on how that comp plan may give us some leverage. I had not even thought about that. But I would be real interested in what you guys learn on that.
Okay. Thank you. Any further public comment on this item? Yes, sir.
Good evening.
State your name, sir.
My name is John Hack, and I reside at 1125 A18 Highway and Buccaneer Beach Club condominiums.
Thank you.
And it started out, I've been there now 4 years, and I'm fortunate enough to spend 6 months down here and 6 months back home in Michigan. And I'm very fortunate that I have 9 children, and they're all great. I've been on the village council there for 4 years, and I was a zoning administrator for 10 years in the village of Onekama. And it came that when I was here 3 years ago, they decided to put a fence around the pool.
Sir, I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is an agenda item, public comment. If you have a citizen's comment that's not about this agenda item, I'm going to take it.
What's an agenda item?
No, well, no, this comment session is for this agenda item,
Which is the school.
which is the school closing. Talking about the school. If it's about the school, then I apologize for interrupting you. If it's not about the school,
It's not about the school, it's
then I'll
about...
call you back when we get to that.
Oh,
Okay? I'm sorry.
okay.
Yeah, we're talking about this particular agenda item for citizens' comments.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misinterpreted things here. Thank you.
Right. Any further comment on this particular agenda item? Hearing none, bring it back to council. Council, any further discussion other than to meet and draft the letter?
Somebody's, well, you would sign the letter.
Yeah.
Do we need to have a brief special meeting and have the whole council approve the letter, or what?
When's our next meeting? Okay. Is that something we can do at one of the meetings we have scheduled before the 18th?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that if the council gives direction to the mayor to draft a letter and covers the general scope of the letter, then I believe that the letter can be drafted as long as it maintains the scope that is given by the council, and then the mayor can sign it without having to reconvene. Is that right, Jim? Or?
That's generally true, but in light of the fact that Councilman Gott has volunteered to write the letter for signature by the mayor, it's kind of getting in the gray area, so it'd probably be good, you know. And the other thing is, based on the input from council, I think council probably wants to see the final product before it gets sent to the school board.
And if I'm not mistaken, we do have a meeting on the 16th, do we?
Correct.
And is that our first meeting, I believe?
That is correct.
Okay. We call a special meeting before it, for that item, agenda item, if that is acceptable to everyone?
That's fine. And I believe we're,
16?
Yes?
we have one on the 17th if you want to give yourself an extra day. Just, we can do the same thing on the 17th. I believe we're trying to set.
What are we doing on the 16th? Is that stormwater?
The stormwater is the 16th, yes, ma'am.
And 17th is the comp plan?
Correct.
I'd rather have it on the 17th, and it'll be in draft format.
And that'll give you enough time so that it'll be
Clean it
ready
up
for
a
the
bit,
18th
yeah.
to give?
Yeah.
Is that acceptable to everyone?
Yeah, that's fine.
Lorraine, let me ask you this. I know that, just from dealing with legislators, when you draft a letter, the letter is pretty explicit in how you're explaining the situation. But if we can have something that's a bullet point thing that goes along with the letter, bullet points are a lot easier to read, having the letter as backup information also. Because some of these people, if it's a long letter, they're not going to read the whole thing. If we address all the bullet points, the comp plan issue being one of them, some of the things that were mentioned.
People read my stuff, Dominic.
Okay.
All right, we'll look at that on the 17th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is that correct from the council? Everybody good with that?
I'm good.
Any other comment on that? Okay, hearing none, that agenda item is closed. Now I'll move on to citizens' comments. Now, on citizens' comments, this is comments that are non-agenda item. If you have a comment on an agenda item, we'll take it up with that particular agenda item. Also, I meant to mention before, we have headsets available. If you need them for hearing, they're here for you. You can get them from Lenore. I apologize for not bringing that up before. So at this time, open up for citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Is yours an agenda item?
What's an agenda item?
It would be any item that's listed on our agenda here. If it's not, if you just have a comment you would like to bring forth to us, then this is the time to do it.
It's not on the agenda.
Please, then. And I'm sorry to make you state that again.
That's all right, no
Thank you.
problem. It started out 3 years ago that on the fence around the pool, which was made out of pressure-treated wood, and it was 4 feet high, and they wanted to go to 6 feet. And they started on it, and they bought the material, and then they were notified that they had to go to plastic. And so they went to plastic, and it's been put up, and they spent $11,000 on it. And then the fence is blown down twice. And so they've reinforced it, and it's here's what they did. There, but they put braces on it coming down. Looks like the fits, but hey, it works, and there's what it amounts to is the association would like to put up, in other words, right now, we have, this is the north building. You can see the entrance, and you come around here, and you see all those junction boxes, and they like to put a fence up in front of it to hide it. And
Thanks, sir.
this controls,
You need to, Mr. Wood, at the mic. Thank you.
so I made drawings last year, brought it in, and they all agreed to it, but they said they couldn't use it because it used pressure-treated wood. And so I thought, hey, that's great. But I read your rules on fences and walls, and it says all fences located east of Highway A1A shall be constructed of plastic-coated chain link, ultra-resistant vinyl chloride or anodized aluminum. So my question is, what happened to stainless steel? What happened to fiberglass? What happened to brick and block? And I mean, you're limited here on what you can do, and the new plastic fence they put up is not chain link PVC. It's actually PVC that looks nice, but it's not very strong. And then I walk every day about an hour, and I come by Las Olas here. There wasn't anything there last year, but look at this in the front. In other words, that's pressure-treated wood. So why does it happen in one place and it can't happen in another?
Has John been aware of this issue?
I don't know, but I will get with him tomorrow morning, and we'll go out and take a look and see if we can contact him, maybe have a conversation tomorrow and see if we can work through the situation you have now and why they're different, and talk to code enforcement and see if there's an alternative to your situation that might help you out.
All right, fine. Do you want my telephone number?
Would you mind leaving that with Lenore right there for me?
No, fine.
That way you don't have to broadcast it all, you know.
And
All
Jeff,
right.
could you give us an update on it? Because lots of times these things are presented and we're not privy to the final solution, so.
You got it.
All right, thank you.
One more thing, in other words, I walk the sidewalk every day. I used to walk the beach, but it's so changed now, why it's shortened or anyway, but on the sidewalk, beautiful sidewalk, it really is. But when you look at it, there's bushes that come out on different spots that they come out from 25% to 35% or 33% of blocking off the sidewalk. And I'm wondering if something can be done, you know, to rid that of the, this is just walking south.
Okay, sir, well, thank you very much. Jeff, you'll take care of that for us tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Check into both of these.
Absolutely.
Thank
All
you.
right, one other question, in other words, this is for my information, but when you go along and you walk on a sidewalk, when you come to a street, the old sidewalks used to have a rough surface on it. Now they put steel plates on there with bubbles on it. What's the reason for that?
Handicap?
I believe
Yes.
handicap.
It's an ADA issue for wheelchairs, so that
And it's also designed to lower fall risk. In other words, you're changing surfaces on pavement, so it's designed to lower your fall risk.
It's actually fiberglass.
Yeah.
Okay, ADA requires it. How come in other cities there's just a slant down, there's no pebbles and there's no rough cement?
Because they're behind the times.
Pardon?
They're
They're behind the times.
You say so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further public
Oh,
citizens comment?
this is what we're proposing putting up there.
Okay.
In other words, to hide the electrical boxes.
Thank you.
And also, in other words, we've never had any problems with electrical boxes, but they are 220 volts and 100 amps. And we had one disconnect in the last 4 years.
Well, thank you. I know Jeff will take care of it, and he will get with you tomorrow.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Any further citizens' comments? Hearing none, to close the citizens. Moving on to city council comments. Council, would mind, I'd like to start. Okay. The last council meeting, John Fergus brought up an idea, and also I think Councilwoman Dean has been saying it for some time. And it's the sequence of our board meetings as they pertain to permitting. And what I'd like to do is task staff to take a look at the issue and just to see how we can make that operation smoother. Is that a...
Sounds good.
Okay, good, thank you. We did that one. Okay, the other one is concerning agenda items that require budget transfers or changes. And I remember in the past when we had a budget issue or an item on that was transferring funds or using funds, that we knew where those funds were coming from, where they're going to, the line item. And I talked to Jeff about it the last couple of days, that I would like to see that back in our package so that we know what line items they come from. And a good example, and the recommendation from where that money should come from. Because we have a couple issues, I think, that are still outstanding. I know we have the money to do it, but to pay the acting city manager what we said we were going to do there, and also the city manager search that we have with the consulting firm right now, where is that funds coming from? So I think anytime we have funds involved, I'd like to see some report if that's okay. Okay, council, is that?
Sounds good.
Okay.
For me?
I attended the beautification board meeting, and I also attended with the fire chief and assistant city manager an economic development committee meeting called a P4, which was very interesting. I think it's very much in its infancies. They want to very much push this quickly, it looks like, and I don't know enough about it yet, but it was an initiative of public and private, and along with the government at Patrick Air Force Base, to help better utilize facilities. And so I think what's going to happen, or what they have planned, is to have a meeting at Patrick to show the different services that are provided there and maybe where joint services could be used. Jeff, have you heard anything else on it? But
no, we got the follow-up email that they mentioned that I believe you got, and we're working on it.
Okay, and that's all I have.
Let me start. Okay. The retirement plans boards met to approve their quarterly payment to the fund manager, and during that meeting they had a lengthy telephone conference with the fund manager to discuss the financial report that he had prepared for the boards. I attended the Comprehensive Planning Advisory Board special meeting in which they reviewed the amendments that they had proposed to City Council in February of last year. They completed that review, and Mr. LaRue, the planning consultant, is preparing a consolidated document to come back to the council for us to consider in the January 17th workshop. The South Beaches Coalition meeting was canceled because the January meeting of the Transportation Planning Organization meeting, that meeting was canceled, so the South Beaches Coalition meeting was canceled. On Monday, I was interviewed by Colin Benzinger, who is the consultant handling the executive search for our permanent city manager. And then I've already mentioned this to our city manager. The Florida League of Cities puts out an elected officials manual. They put out periodic updates on that, and probably 4 of us anyhow have attended the Florida League of Cities about a week-long training, if I recall correctly, training for new elected officials. And so anyway, I've asked Jeff to get copies of the updated manual for each of us. That's it.
Thank you.
I just have a few questions. When will we receive the revised comp plan, or the comp plan, since the meeting is next Thursday? Do you know, Jeff?
I don't know for sure to be able to answer that.
It's a big document to get through. So, and then just one other, really just a question. I noticed that the agenda cover sheet was gone before each agenda item that had at the end the fiscal impact. I thought we made a decision to revise it and to continue to use it.
We did.
Okay.
It was my understanding that if the information was going to be different than what would be in the executive summary, then we would use that to add it. If they were going to be the same, then we didn't need to do both. So, but yes, it's still there. We still do it if there's going to be a difference, if it adds more information.
Okay, thanks. That's it.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to thank the support from the council members that appointed me. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dominic Montanaro, and I have served on the city council from 2002 to 2009, and I appreciate being back here. I'd like to thank the calls that I got from residents and the support that residents gave me by contacting council members and speaking on my behalf. And I also appreciate my wife, who's not here, her support in allowing me to continue my service with the city. I attended my first liaison meeting last night with the Recreation Board, and it was the first time I'd had a swing through the Recreation Board. I've been through most of the boards in the city, so that was a new experience for me. And, you know, our Rec Board, as some of you were here earlier for the interviews, you know, we have a a great recreation board. They do a lot of different programs for not only our children, but for adults. And, there's not one point in time where you can't go by the Schechter Center and there's not a bunch of people there, whether it's kids in the gym or cars out in the parking lot during the day when there's adults there using the facility. So our rec department has a lot of good ideas. They're going to be coming to us with some different things in the next couple of meetings. I also spoke with Colin Basinger today also on the city manager selection committee, so we had a good conversation for about a half an hour. And I spoke with Mike Sittig, who is the executive director of the Florida League of Cities today, because I had not seen the legislative priorities that the Florida League of Cities puts out for their agenda every year. And this process starts in August at the annual conference. And we have not been involved in what goes on in the Florida League of Cities, which ultimately affects every one of us, because there's legislation that gets passed that trickles down through that in the past we have always been a part of. I know that several members who are sitting up here sat on boards with the Florida League of Cities or committees, and those committee processes start in August at the annual conference, and we've not been involved in it. And I spoke with Mike today, and I let him know that we, as a city, we're going to start getting back involved with it, because it is important to our city, it's important to our residents. And their legislative days are the 19th and 20th, I believe, of March. And the priorities have all been set, and their number one priority for the legislative session is police and fire pension, because it's obvious that every city and county in the state is looking at this issue, because it is something that is not self-sustaining. And we have to start looking at these things. And I'm glad that this is their number one priority, because it was one of my priorities when I interviewed to come back on this council. I think we need to look at it. I'm glad that they're looking at it. I would like to be up in Tallahassee, but I think we've kind of missed our opportunity this year. We should have been involved in the process, so I'm going to be looking at, when August rolls around, that we become back involved with it. We attend the annual conference. We get our members of council back on committees. There's 9 or 10 committees that the league has that range from one end of the spectrum to the other, which affects whether it's TMDLs going into our water, transportation issues that our city is going to be affected by. It covers the whole gamut. So I just wanted to say that I'm looking forward to getting our city back involved with the Florida League of Cities. They do great things for us. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark?
First of all, I would like to again thank Dominic for his willingness to volunteer to be in this position. Dominic, it's good to see you back, and we look forward to working with you. It's nice to have you on board again. Secondly, I don't know who gets the kudos for the revisions of the packet, but this was so much easier to read. It really followed a good flow. Again, Councilwoman Deeman mentioned we need the fiscal impact on the things as they come through, but much easier to read first time through. So thank you for city staff on the efforts to put this together. Also had an opportunity to talk to Colin Benziger with the Executive Search Committee. I spent between 45 minutes to an hour on the phone with him. It was really an interesting conversation. This man is very, very detailed with what he does. But he took me through interviews regarding history of the city, what I knew over my years of living here, and what was the philosophy of the city, what had been the previous directions of the city, what are the strong points the city has, and what the weak points of the city has. We spent a lot of time talking about city and Brevard County economics and opportunities in Brevard County to partner with Brevard County on enhancing our city's economic position. Talked a little bit about growth. I think everybody knows my position on the 100 acres, how important that is, and how I think that needs to fit into the city manager that comes on board and works towards making something good out of that 100 acres. And then, again, strengths and weaknesses we have as a council, just our ability to work together and in the direction that each of us that I saw that we each had. And I kind of commented on that a little bit. But I think it was a 45 minutes to an hour well spent. And then after I got off the phone with him, I thought of something I forgot to tell him and called him back, and we spent another 10 or 15 minutes on the phone. So all told, I think that, and this is an agenda item that we're going to talk about tonight, but I think that the path that we've picked to try to look for a new city manager is going to be well invested with this group that we have. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me, Mayor, one other thing. I noticed that we all have a copy of the draft redevelopment plan dated 2012, so it's out there for anyone wants to look at it. It's a very lengthy document, so it's here, and we have hard copy. Beautiful thing.
Any other comments from council? Here are none. Moving on to agenda item number 5, city attorney report.
I have nothing.
Good game. All right, city manager's report. Jeff?
As of the writing of the packet and the distribution, I did not have anything for the city manager report. However, this afternoon, I just did get some information on something that's been a topic, so I wanted to throw it in there. And that is that the Michael P. Crotty sign has been, the location's been staked out, it's been set, and it should be in and mounted, I guess, by the end of next week. And I just found that out this afternoon.
Given that, obviously, we need to do something, a little ceremony of dedicating that at some point, so let's keep that in mind. I'm sure we'll put a lot of time in it, and, take a look and see when that can happen.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Any other information?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 8, discuss, take action on executive search and the letter of engagement.
Really, this is just a formal action to accept the letter of engagement. It's been looked at by the city attorney, and he's here if there's any comments.
Okay. Council?
Who's here?
The city attorney.
Oh, well, welcome. Good to see you. There are a couple of things regarding this. We need to close out the process on that original search with our citizens committee. I'd like to pass this out. It's a motion that I would like to make, and with this one coming down for you. May I go ahead and make the motion now? Okay, I'd like to move that we close the original city manager search process, that we send a letter to each applicant informing them of the council's decision regarding the original search and informing them of the new search to be conducted, that we disband the permanent city manager selection committee, and that we approve the letter of engagement as submitted by Colin Benziger and Associates.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Gott. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Brimer. Discussion, council?
I think the only addition I would have is in the letter that we sent to them, I think we should thank them for the time that they spent,
Well, yeah,
Okay.
we can put anything in the letter we want, but we need,
Just-
the
I'd
point
like
is
to
we
make
need to
sure-
inform
yeah.
them that-
I'm all for
to
it.
close this out.
Any other comment from council? The only one I have is, again, going back to the finance end, where's the 21.5 coming from? So, like, not now, but, a report on what line item that will come out of. Okay.
Salaries.
I'll open it up for citizens' comment on this agenda item.
Because all we're doing is approving this motion, right?
Yes. Right, and the agenda item is to approve the
Yes.
recommendation. Right. So that's why I'm opening up. Okay.
Amy Nisi, Satellite Avenue. I just want to, I was the chair of that committee. Thank you very much, Cheryl, for appointing me to that. And I just want to say how pleased I am that council is taking this direction. In my role as school board member, when we went to employ a superintendent, we went with a search firm, and I felt it was the best money we ever spent. The committee worked hard, and, we gave you what we could come up with, but I just want to say on behalf of the committee, I'm very comfortable and very pleased with the direction you're taking.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further citizen comments? Hearing none, bring it back to council. Council, any further comments? Lenore, you please poll.
Councilwoman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Dodd?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Agenda item number 8 passes 5-0. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 9, discuss, discuss, and take action on the Audit Selection Committee. Ron? Welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, council and citizens. Ron Dragudis, resident Satellite Beach, chairman of the Auditing Committee. Just to bring you up to date, last meeting on December 19th, we had an agenda item to review the progress and the whole situation with the Auditor Selection Committee. And I had stated to council that I was going to be asking for additional information from the city manager and other staff members after that meeting. And we would be conducting a meeting on the 7th, the Auditor Committee, prior to today's meeting. So let me backpedal here a little bit. And I remember Councilman Lorraine Gott bringing up the fact that we have an agreement with the existing firm, and based on my understanding during past council this summer when this committee was brought together, we had different information that was brought forward, and nonetheless we all volunteered to serve on the committee. So last Thursday I had a meeting with Jeff Pearson requesting copies of the contracts so that I could see firsthand where we stand with them. And it is true the contract with Hoyman Dobson, from the contract that I have dated July 10th, 2009, is through the fiscal year end 2013, which is this September. They're responsible for the contract based on the agreement. Whatever transpired in the summer, whatever the contract issues were, it doesn't matter at this point, but this one stands. However, it was assigned to Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. And when it was assigned, they basically took over the obligation of Hoyman Dobson. It was a merger. So I will accept that, and this past Monday's meeting for the Auditor Committee was canceled in light of knowing these contracts, that this committee would not have to press forward to complete their obligation by July so that we can get the RFPs going. We've got time for all that. Additionally, when looking at 218-391 or 3.19, 391, exactly. We have a contract that goes through September of 2013, and it was pointed out to me, and I've agreed with this. In fact, I brought this over to discuss with Jeff for more specifically to paragraph 7, where we have additional renewals. And my gray area fell into the fact that for paragraph 8 that is disclosed, written contracts into pursuant to subsection 7 may be renewed. If as discussed with Jeff, perhaps our city attorney should bring a little background in that as far as how this contract renewal process works, whether we even need an auditing committee at this point. From the auditing committee's perspective, we are willing to go forward, prepare the RFP, prepare the necessary documentation as if you will have a document available to you after the 2013 audit, and nobody would technically have to recreate the wheel from where we went to. It simply would be a tool available to you to utilize if you decide to go out for an RFP, if you decide to look for new auditors. That's entirely up to council. That is not the auditing committee's function. auditing committee's function is simply to provide you with the procedures and make sure the documents are in place. But ultimately, it is your decision. And that's my update. And it's your decision to bring us forward or not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's see if we have any questions. I have some timing-wise with, on our contract. They're auditing right now 11-12, correct?
That's true.
The next year, they're going to do 12-13, but they're actually doing it in 14.
Right.
So we really don't need an auditor until 15.
Correct.
Is that a correct statement?
Correct. Right.
15 is when they will,
No.
they will be doing the,
No, their audit agreement is to do the fiscal years ending 09, 10, 11, 12, and 13.
right, but they do 13 in year 14, right? January, like they're doing now.
The year ending September 30, 2013.
Yes, correct. I agree that. All I'm saying is, but the actual audit is taking place January of 14.
Yes.
Okay? Then they're going to do that audit. Then the next audit, if we were making a change, would actually be audited in 15. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
But it's for fiscal year ending 2014.
Yes. Here's my question. You're a committee.
Hold on. Please understand that there is some interim work that they do before that 15th, the calendar year 15. So there is some work in 14 that they do.
All I'm saying is I just want to make sure that if we have a committee and we have people on the committee, that they realize you might not have a lot to do, and will this committee stay together for the length of time until this decision is going to be needed to be made? You're the committee chair. How do you feel that? It's longer than I thought when we were first talking about this. So how do you feel about the length of time?
It is longer, but the tendency has been, based on the makeup of the committee, some members that they prefer to meet once a month, and the initial meetings lasted for maybe an hour, and people have commitments, and most people were saying, hey, let's do this an hour or two once a month and just bring it forward. That was the feeling during the current time period. One of the reasons why it was hurried up that we gave you the timetable is, of course, we know that the contract stands how it is right now, regardless of the past desires. Everyone wanted to get done for the summer break. Several committee members have grandchildren that they watch through the summer and help out their kids, a grandparent function these days, and they wanted the summer off. So my understanding is that several of the committee members would be more than happy to continue on, knowing full well that in the summer they wouldn't be spending much time. But again, that's entirely up to the council to decide.
Thank you. Council comments?
I really don't have a problem with the committee remaining. The members may change eventually, but for the statute, it's required. Whether or not we can move forward or not, it is required, and it's not a bad thing to do the research in advance.
And I just want to make sure from Joanna that it's a requirement to do it, and it is a committee to advise us, and whether we accept or not, I'm not saying. I just want to make sure that we understand. You could pick somebody who was not on there as long as they are the existing, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was under the impression. Okay, just want to make sure.
And please understand, there's been a good effort put in on the RFP and some of the documentation, the notations, and the direction. It's kind of throwing the work away at this point. It's not completely done, but there has been some effort put in getting the documents together.
I just want to make sure that if you go out for RFP, let's just say you went out in the summer, we're still a year and a half away. How good is those numbers going to be that when we are ready to?
They would have to be updated in the fall, just the numbers, but the language, the documents would be set for you.
But the RFP wouldn't go out until we
No,
get ready for it?
no.
Just make sure. Phil, any other?
Yeah, and I'm just a little confused. I mean, we were advised that this was the process, and that's why we set up the auditing committee, and here we are now learning that the contract goes until fiscal year.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, it was.
And then, may I add something else here? The contract was assigned from Hoyman Dobson to Carr Riggs. They assumed the liability. I don't have a document, and it may not be necessary because of the assignment, but I would like to ask this is, did we re-sign an agreement with Carr Riggs? I don't have that document.
And I specifically
mean, we had
remember-
a transfer. I get that.
This was one of my first meetings, and we specifically asked how long was the contract good through, and they said the next fiscal year. So this is how this whole auditing committee issue came up.
Good background. Are you done, Joe? Any
Yeah.
questions? Lorraine?
Okay. First of all of these documents were available. I got them. I read from them. I knew there was a contract at the last meeting. And in all of my years of involvement with the city, I have never seen the city appoint a committee to just hang around in case we might need them months down the road. This doesn't make sense to me. We are a long ways from needing a new auditor if we need one. And I think that we need to just stop this right now, disband this committee. When the time comes, if we decide we want to go out for another auditing firm or to get RFPs or whatever, that's the time to appoint a committee of people that we know are interested at that time, instead of having these people keep hanging around. And another thing that we need to keep in mind, every time this committee meets just to kill time and keep this thing going, we are taking up staff time for nothing. And that's a cost to us, and there's just no sense in it. And I'm going to move it again, that we disband this auditing selection committee. That's my motion.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor by Ms. Scott to disband. So
I'm going to second it for discussion. You know, I'm also kind of on board with what Lorraine's talking about. You know, if you're going to put a committee in place and you have pertinent things that you're doing now, you know, get the things done. If we're asking this committee to stay together for a year and a half, and we're really not tasking them with anything other than, well, when we get to that point, we'll require the information. I don't think it's fair to the city. I don't think it's fair to the committee. Committees generally, like task force, I mean, basically that's what it is a task force, because it's not a standing committee. It should never have been a committee. It should have been a task force to look at this issue. And task force are short-lived entities. And, you know, I applaud the work that Ron has put into this, because I know he's put a lot of time into it. I also know that if a year down the road we're in this process, I would hope that he would be interested in coming back and picking up, you know, where he left off, because they've already done a lot of work. But to have them hanging on, to me, is not doing them a service. And I think from the staff perspective that we have to have a person at the meeting, it's not doing the city any justice, because we're taking comp time away from other things that the staff person that's the liaison to that task force should be doing.
I have a motion by Mrs. Scott, a second, Councilman Montanaro. Further comment?
My only concern is that, you know, I think Ron and his committee has done a good job of moving this forward. If I was on that committee, not knowing what's going to happen in the next X number of months, I think my concern, Ron, would be sitting on that committee is what's going to happen with my work. I could spend hours and hours and hours and get to the end and feel really frustrated if my work didn't go someplace. So one of the things we want to do is encourage our volunteers to make a difference, and I just hate to see that protracted process and then it may fall by the wayside. So that's my concern on continuing this process on.
My thing is this, I think the committee, or having that committee, now or when the time comes, is important to go through it. And it's just more from a knowledge standpoint. Not saying that we would change or not change, but if we haven't done this in 10 years, how do we really know the price we're paying hasn't changed out there? We might find something that fits us better. And unless we go through those steps, we don't know. And again, my concern with just the people on the committee is that this thing is almost a year and a half out there. And is the information going to be the same in a year and a half as it is today or the next couple of days? I think, that's my concern. Not having the committee, I want to make sure that if we do this, that we do have the committee. I think it's just important to go through that, to know where we stand financially and a lot of things that we did. So that was my concern, Ron, why I asked you the question was really that, I was under the impression to start that this was something that we would do over the summer and that it was important to get it done. But looking at it, it's really for 2015. So it's 2013, so it's a couple of years out there. So that's my concern.
Well, the issue is, you have eventually you're going to you're required to have a committee by law.
Correct.
If we go through this process. So this is not a staff-driven committee. If we choose for it not to meet until then, the committee's still in place. The members just may change. So.
Well, exactly. But did this committee, when it was formed, again, we weren't on council then, was it given a specific time? Because most committees like this have a start date and an end date. It's just not a date for 2 years.
Right.
That's my only thing. It's not a sitting.
It's an ad hoc committee.
It's an ad hoc committee that usually has a start and a finish date. So.
And a misunderstanding what the contract was.
Correct.
So.
Okay. And that's my only thing. I'm definitely for having this, yes, because the law says it, and also I think it's just good knowledge to gain to see where we're at.
Right, and I hope that, eventually whoever is on this committee is very knowledgeable with the statute because it's very important, and
you did a great job.
You got to follow the law.
I think you did a great job, and it was going the right direction. My concern is, how long is that committee going to want to stay together? If we put it out, we might not need them or ask them until December, January. So does the information need to be started all over again? That's my only concern.
Okay.
So let me open up for citizens' comments on this.
John Fergus, 135 Maple. Ron says they've put quite a bit of material together. As I understand, what he said is it's really not in usable form. It's probably just a lot of loose stuff or whatever. And I guess maybe a pertinent question would be, number one, how much effort would it take to get them so that whatever they've done is a product that could be used in the future? And number two, what's the probability that product would be usable in the future? In other words, if the legislature every year changes things, you'd say somebody have to do it all over again. So the thing is that I hate to see somebody spend I'd hate to spend a lot of time on something and then have it just thrown away and say, if I'd had another 2 hours, I could have given them a product that would have been useful in the future. And I think you may want to follow that a little bit. I have no idea where that discussion would go, but I just see it as a discussion.
Okay. Any other further comment? Hearing none, bring it back to council. Council, any further?
I think, judging from what John said, Ron, what you have together, if you were to put something in a package that kind of briefly summarizes everything you've done, is that going to be something that we would be able to use as valuable information going forward, or is it going to change that much that it's really not going to be useful?
I don't think they're going to change the auditing committee rules all that much going forward, although that's a bold assumption in today's times. But realistically, I really don't think they're going to change very much. As far as putting the documentation together, I do know several committee members, including myself, have quite a few revisions to the existing document that need to be incorporated, and it would take more than several meetings to complete it properly. It would take at least, I'm going to say at a minimum, 3 solid meetings to have the documentation put together right.
And what would that documentation?
You'd have an RFP, request for proposal. You'd also have the auditor selection procedures in place. Those are the 2 vital documents. You would have that together. And subject to various, of course, updating on some of the parameters, that could be highlighted for you as far as what real changes as they stand right now.
Am I correct, this law came into effect in 2005?
Yes.
Question on it, Jim. If they did this RFP now and we got it, how long is it
that's
standing good for in the eyes of the state? If you have a contract that needs to be done in January and we do it 6 months before, that's an acceptable time. If it's done 3 years before it, is that an acceptable time? Not that it's 3 years, but I want to make sure that we don't do it and put them out, and then all of a sudden we have to go through all this again because of the time.
We don't want to be issuing an RFP now.
Well, no, I understand. I just have a question I asked.
Excuse me, I'm unaware of any time. The issue is ultimately going to be whether the information or the proposal or the RFP becomes stale. I think that may be the better way of saying it. That's really what the issue is.
That's in essence.
Okay. All right.
The way I look at it, it's kind of like a planning tool. This is not a board where the staff is giving a recommendation based on an application that they received. They're doing this prep work as a planning tool for the future. Given it's not necessary, at least the work will be done and prepped and ready. So, I mean, it's kind of nice you have volunteers that will do that for you.
Well, understand that. That's why we're doing this. Okay. Any other further comment? Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Gott. Councilwoman, excuse me. Sorry. Second, Councilman Montanaro. No further discussion? Poll, please.
Councilwoman Dean?
No.
Vice Mayor Butler?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Gott?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
No. Okay, agenda item passes 3-2. Moving on to agenda item number 10, policies, procedure amendment. Sorry?
Yeah, we talked about those at the last meeting, and that was just a couple of changes on page 4, striking in section 3C, striking the very last part of the bottom sentence, starting with the word except, and then on page 7, number 7, inserting the words or other knowledgeable person after the word city manager. And so I move that we adopt the council policies and procedures as amended here.
I'll second it.
A motion by Councilwoman Scott, second by Councilman Montanaro. Discussion from council.
Other than, thank you for your hard work on doing this. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Open it up at this time for citizens' comments. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Lenore?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bryant?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dodd?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Passes 5-0. Now moving on to agenda item number 11, request for proposal for grant writing services. Jeff?
Some time ago, the decision was made, I guess, that to go out for an RFP to get someone on board as a pay-as-you-go type thing for grant writing services should a grant become available. The process got right up to the point where the RFP was put out, it was received by staff, it was opened, the prior interim city manager had gone over and looked at the stuff, the responses, and came up with a particular company that was viable or came out, I guess, better than the others. The issue is I don't have that background as far as what was done or who was contacted as far as references or anything. So what I was suggesting is if in fact the council still requests grant writers to be solicited at this time, then to give the staff the ability to just go back over the proposals that were given, look at them, contact references, do due diligence, come back with a recommendation of a couple to either be interviewed or whatever the council's choice was.
Thank you. Council, comments?
I looked at these proposals, and, the first thing I noticed is off on the right-hand side where, it says no stormwater, and some of them are blank. And I mean, the biggest things that our city has done have been stormwater issues and grants. And I'm sure that we're probably, even though, we've done some of the major projects in the city, we're still probably going to be looking at different things in the future, whether they be baffle boxes or, repairs to different things in the structures. And, I'm looking at these also going, wow, we had a great deal with the grant writers we had, because if I'm looking at the prices here on some of this stuff, $10,000 to $25,000 per grant. And, if this is pay-as-you-go, it's a lot of money. That's my comment.
Okay.
Well, I can't remember the specific RFP, but I would assume that the RFP would have went out saying that the minimum requirement is that you need to have stormwater experience. So I'm a little curious about that to begin with. But I don't remember, I don't think we got very far, and I don't recall a committee being set up to rank the bids when they were opened.
No, I do not believe that happened.
It's peculiar. There should have been a committee to rank the,
But I don't know where in the process when the change was made it was. Maybe that was on the horizon, maybe that was, I don't know. That's why I'm really not in a position to say to the council, I recommend this person or that person, and that's where I'm at.
I guess, the easiest thing to do is send this back to the city manager and let him get with staff and figure out how they want to objectively look at this and make some better recommendations to us, because based on what we have here, there's not really much we can do with this.
Yeah. My question is what are we using these grant writers for? Just the basic question is as a council, have we decided what we're grant writing for? I mean, are we just, you see where I'm coming from? I don't know what we're doing. We need a grant writer. Well, what are they going to do? So far, there's no stormwater here. I mean, so I think as collectively, we've got to decide what direction we're going before we start RFPing. So that's my thoughts on it.
I know a little bit about this. The 319 stormwater grants are the most valuable to us for our needs now, and they're also the most pressing. The Section 319 grant runs on a May submission cycle. It takes several months prior to that time to get a good project together and to get a winning application together. We already have a 319 grant funded for the Laurel Lane Phase 1 project. If we do not submit a 319 this year, the city can plan to submit one in May of next year. And when these grant funds are awarded, you don't start the next day on your project. There's something like a 3-year lead time between the time you get these funds and the time you actually break ground. And so if we wait until 2014 to submit our next 319 stormwater grant, that money will come to us in time to just have a smooth transition from phase 1 to phase 2 on Laura Lane. The previous grant writers used to meet annually with the department heads to find out what their needs were. Then a plan was made for how to proceed, what grants they would look for, and that has not been done. And so, Mark, you're right, we don't know what we want except for that stormwater grant. I believe that we're going to need to be looking at some staffing situations when the new city manager comes on board, and I would like to propose that we entertain the thought of having our grant writing done in-house, not hire one of these super expensive grant writing firms, because we don't have a pressing need right now, so we don't have to hire one right now for 319. And I would like for us to, in the few months ahead, to look at a position that includes having that person write grants. I don't believe I'm speaking out of school when I say that John Fergus is stepping up to the plate again, and he would be willing to help a staff grant writer with the things that he did when he and somebody else were writing the grants for the city. So my proposal would be to let this go for now, because we don't need to act on it, to take a look at bringing the grant writing function in-house, and to once again close out this RFP solicitation process and notify those who had submitted a proposal of the action taken by the council, and that no one is being selected at this time.
All right, go ahead. The 319, if we miss May, then we miss a whole nother cycle, is what we're saying. Mm-hmm. So we do have some urgency if we want to get in on this cycle.
Right.
Again, we don't know, we don't have to, but if we find something from a stormwater and so forth, we have to be prepared to have it submitted prior to May, or the deadline in May.
It's just not feasible because, first of all, you're looking at a large matching fund, and we don't have that, so we really need to buy some time.
Okay, so our time is not this May, you're saying?
It's not critical for this May.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure
yes.
It's in.
The phase 1 Lori Lane funded project that we have is the end of the Glenwood trunk line, is it not?
To my knowledge, that is the part.
Help me with this, John.
Because the Glenwood trunk line is the one that is, I know Alan has come before the council, he was before the council 4 or 5 years ago and had started bringing us up to speed that the Glenwood trunk line is
we have that
sometime going to fail. Right. So, I understand and I realize where we are. We don't have the matching funds, but
and we're not ready to start that project.
Not ready to start that project, but I think we need to start gearing ourselves toward May of next year.
Yes.
Because that is a high priority. If it's going to be 3 years from getting the grant till when we turn dirt, you're not looking at the Glenwood trunk line until, 4 or 5 years out.
I think also there is on the 16th when we have the stormwater meeting, we're going to have a pretty good feel of what Alan is looking at. And I know that line 6 years ago when I sat on is a big issue because it runs behind everyone's houses.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not an easy project. Can't get to it. So
to answer yours, it's at headwaters. It's on the east end. It brings it about a third of the way. It brings it to Cale. It gets it out of the backyards. It goes up Temple, down to Cale on Hamlin. The complicating factor here is that, and you will hear more than you want about this whenever we have the stormwater workshop. The basis for this project, like most of ours, depends on exfiltration. Put the water into the ground table, into the water table. Turns out that some work that has been being done by the stakeholders here in Brevard County has caught the attention of the regulators, DEP, because what they found was that, guess where the groundwater goes and what it carries. And what they found was half of the pollutants were making their way to the lagoon through the groundwater. And now all of a sudden they're saying, maybe we don't want to put it in the groundwater. And so they contacted Alan, and the whole thing's on hold until they figure out this issue. And we are playing with some games with this. We may have some solutions to it. But the point is, we don't know where phase one is going to go, what it's going to look like, so we can't even write a phase two, or nobody can write a phase two not knowing what technology is available. So the thing is, I don't see that being resolved in time for May. This whole thing has become just a nasty knot, and we just need to back off for a while.
Lorraine?
Yes, to the council is done.
Lorraine?
Direction of council.
Just kind of pre-rumor control. You mentioned the hiring a grant writer inside. Just kind of so I see what your thoughts are on this and where this is going. Full-time position, person that does other things with an expertise. Fill me in on what you're talking, because everybody's going to say, what's this grant writer, and the city's hiring a grant writer. Tell me exactly what you're thinking, not that we're all going that way, but what you're thinking. Please.
Grant writing would be an additional duty.
Okay.
It's not, we're not hiring a grant writer. We're hiring a person to fill a number of tasks.
Okay.
Grant writing being one of them.
Okay. That's all I have right now.
Going back to this proposal, I see 3 that have stormwater experience here. The second one, the 5th one, and the 6th one. And are there, Jim, if you put an RFP out, do you need to, how do you just can not respond until just choose someone else?
Well,
You're
normally,
going to run into an issue, an appeal issue with that?
well, normally, and I'm assuming this one did, because I think everyone I've ever seen anyway generated by the city, there's a provision in there that allows the city to reject any or all, in this case, proposals. I mean, I'd have to look at it, but I mean, normally that's in there, so, and I believe that's part of what the motion addressed, was giving notice to these people that, in essence, we weren't going forward with this.
And then you go out and hire a grant writer.
However, whatever council ultimately decides to do. But I mean, in response to the question, that's what you would do, because that reservation, I think, is just everything I've ever seen the city generate has the right to reject any or all bids or proposals.
And I'll repeat what I said, we're not looking at going out and hiring a grant writer.
Now, so looking at this, I only see one on here that has stated stormwater experience, unless I'm missing.
Well, it specifically says no stormwater noted, and then it's blank, so the assumption is they have stormwater.
Well, the assumption is, yes, or I don't know if they do. I mean, because I have one here that says it does.
On page 3 of the RFP, it says the council of the city of Satellite Beach reserves the right to reject any or all proposals.
Any other comments from the council at this time? I'll open it up for public comment and then bring it back. That's good. Okay. It's time to open it up for public comment. Citizens first.
Am I a public citizen?
Well, the Satellite Beach first is how I take it. I don't see any.
Satellite Beach, it wasn't tall here. Yeah.
Dave Pine, citizen. I look at it as a citizen. I'm not technically knowledgeable as far as grandfathering goes. Only thing I know is from past history, sitting over there listening, our return on investments from grantors have been tremendous, tremendous. $20 million as compared to whatever income. One door closes, another one opens. We lost two great grant writers to, in my opinion, sheer stupidity, if I may say. However, the other door opened, and now we have a very valued council member who is very knowledgeable about grant writing, and we have a individual, a citizen, that is willing to step up to the plate, who is also very knowledgeable about grant writing. And I suggest council take note and listen to their suggestions very carefully and use a little common sense. Let's not get into a bunch of long discussions and rhetorics on this whole thing. If we need a grant writer, let's get one. If we don't need one, don't get one. If Mr. Fergus is willing to step up to the plate, help us out with this situation, that'd be just absolutely fantastic. I can't think of anybody inside or outside that would do a better job. Thank you.
Well, I'm actually getting a little, oh, sorry. Can I talk or?
Yeah,
I'm just getting a little uncomfortable because it's almost like we're directing the city manager who to hire
We're not
for this
directing
position,
anybody.
or it's going to be, you know, I have a lot of friends that are planners and landscape architects and community redevelopment directors. Can my good friends have this position? I mean, it's just a very peculiar, we're going to have a position
Mr.
that
Chairman,
this person's going to do the service and also a grant writer.
And we haven't
I'm
even
really
said-
uncomfortable with this.
We haven't said anything on it. We're taking input. We're just taking input. When it comes back to council, any other citizens'
uncomfortable.
comments?
Vic Bringard, former resident, and I will be a resident soon again. I have extensive background in grant writing. I was the head of a municipal services authority in a county in Pennsylvania, and we got a huge grant for that county. I have had grant writing experience for a very long time, and I would say that your past firm, whatever it was called, was inferior. And I think that the past council agreed with the inferiority of that firm over a number of years. Now, I think, as Councilwoman Dean had pointed out, this whole discussion is headed towards you're hiring John Fergus as a member of the administration of this city. And if that's where you're headed, that's flat out wrong.
Thank you. Any other further comments? Hearing none, bring it back to council. Any further council discussion?
Yeah.
Here. Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
I want to correct the record. We're not looking at hiring John Fergus for anything. John Fergus is looking at volunteering once again for Satellite Beach. And I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we take no action on hiring a grant writing consultant at this time, that we close out the RFP process for the grant writer, and that we send a letter to each of the firms that submitted a proposal informing them of council's action.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Councilwoman Gott, second by Councilman Montanaro.
Can I just say one thing with my second? I didn't hear us talking about hiring any one specific individual. So I just want to go on record as saying that. And I did hear a person's name being mentioned as a volunteer. So if anybody's friends want to volunteer, I don't have a problem with that. But if we're going to have to pay somebody, I think we should be looking at bringing somebody in-house who has multiple talents that can cover some of the things that need to be done in administration or in finance or in any one of the other entities that we need people in City Hall. And that would be how I would look at hiring an individual that is multifaceted.
My thing is excuse me.
Go ahead, Mark. I guess my question of council is we're not looking at doing anything specific with grant writing as a whole for a yet to be determined time. This is we're just not taking any further action on this. And at some point, new city manager comes in, we can gear this discussion up. We're just not going any further with it at this time. That's my understanding what's being said.
Yes.
Okay.
My understanding. Okay. Any other comment? I have one. I'd like to take it up at a later date. We're going to have a meeting on the 16th. We're going to learn a lot from that meeting on stormwater. And if we do this, I have no problem going back out for an RFP and comparing that to in-house. And at least at that point, we have a way to compare. And, if we're not doing anything this year, if we're not going to make the May deadline, but again, I want to make sure if we do it, we go out for an RFP again, closer to the time that we need it, and compare that to what it costs and the efficiency of bringing it in-house.
Sure.
No other further comment from council? One more?
No.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Dodd?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Passes 4-1. At this time, it is 10 to 9. I'm going to take a 10-minute break. We'll adjourn.
Sorry, Liz.
I admitted that on purpose. We cleaned this place out. Yeah, you did. Ready? To reconvene the council meeting, approximately 9 o'clock. Moving on to agenda item number 12. Discuss, take action on forbearance agreement between the City of Satellite Beach and the CRA. Councilwoman Dean, this was your agenda item?
Yes, I just wanted for everybody to have the opportunity to look at the forbearance agreement between the city and the CRA and to give an explanation in the response letter that was prepared. And unfortunately, I didn't make copies, but I'll send this around. The city had documented all of the money that was allocated from the CRA for police, fire, administrative, building and zoning, public works, and electricity from 2003 through 2010. And in 2008, as you all know, there was an audit in Daytona Beach where they had transferred similar monies and had to pay, the city had to pay that money back to the CRA. In any event, the former city council, what they did is they agreed that some of the money needed to be paid back, and basically they forgave all the police money because on one of the pages in the CRA pen, it said that policing may be enhanced because of redevelopment. So they forgave all the and I'm going to pass this around and you can look at it, but it is a public document. And then they decided from 2008 on, when the DOS audit became public knowledge, that they were going to pay back the 2 years of fire and the 2 years of electricity, totaling a little over $500,000. And I don't know the exact numbers, but the TIF brought in from the beginning of the CRA until 2010 was approximately $11 million, and almost $4 million was transferred out to pay for police, fire, and electricity. So that was the rationale for the forbearance agreement, and that's all I wanted to say and make sure you're up to speed. So if you want to, what I did was in the dark boxes, that is the money that is being paid back over the life of the CRA. If we were to pay back all of the money, we would have to pay back about $200,000 a year, and what we're paying back now is approximately $35,000 a year for the lifespan of the CRA, based on that rationale.
Is this?
That's in a public document, but I highlighted it so you could clearly understand.
Daytona Beaches, though?
No, this is ours.
Okay.
But the Daytona Beach audit became public, happened in 2008, and that's when the former city council said, hey, we should have been fully aware of this issue back in 2008, and so they went from 2008 forward, and that's how they came up with that figure. And Jim, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Okay, open it up for council comments. Thank you, sir. Comments? Who would like to start?
I'll keep it brief. This really doesn't become germane until budget time, but I have two comments to make. One about the Daytona Beach situation. The reason that they wound up paying back what they paid back was because for some reason their city attorney never contested that they owed that. Our city attorney had prepared a letter to send to the Attorney General for an opinion as to whether or not that money was owed back from the general fund into the CRA. That's one point. My second point is the first whereas in here, the first premise for this agreement is patently false. It says the CRA funds were budgeted and utilized for police and or fire services of the city. That is false. The CRA funds were budgeted and utilized for enhanced police and fire services in the redevelopment district. That's the fact. And so when we're looking at agreement that from the outset is based on a false premise, I have problems, but that's all I'm going to say now.
Any other comment?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. Hearing none, open it up for public. Any public comment? Hearing none, bring back to council. No further discussion. So thank you for bringing it up.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Moving on to agenda item number 13. Proposed agenda for the next council meeting. If everyone would take a quick look at it. Again, it is just, as it says, proposed. The public hearing there is ordinance 1067. It was not added there. If we're going to go to the January 22nd school board meeting, we probably want to leave number 7 back on and say, report on what happened at that meeting. Okay. Moving on, we have a site plan review, first reading, RFP for consultant to assist the building and zoning as an as-need basis. We're also going to discuss the Beachcaster. Now, if we look at the other items on here, we're going to have the stormwater workshop. So we'll start with a workshop. Is there any other workshop we'd like to set up for those items? And again, it is the 9th. We can set those up in February. What I'd like to do is what I've asked, Lenore, is that we whittle down from the list of things we'd like to get accomplished and pick, one. You have something that we don't.
Kerry Stones is going to be reporting on the engine for the boat.
Okay.
And then also Attorney Beadle had prepared a resolution that will be added after that ordinance 1067.
Correct, yes. Okay, thank you very much. Take a look at the workshops if we want to schedule one of those for February so we pick away at it. Since we're here, we can wait till the 23rd to do that. That's not a problem. And then the pending issues, which one of those pending issues do we want to put on the next agenda so we start whittling away at these?
Am I missing, we hired a human resource person, did we not, correct, to look at the personnel policy? Can we get an update on that?
Yeah.
Am I missing it, or is it on here somewhere?
I don't see it, I'm sorry, not what I have.
Other pending issues.
Is it?
Okay. Okay, we'll take one of those pending issues.
That's the labor negotiation.
Okay. Anything else on those pending that we would really like to?
Go ahead. I was going to say, at some point, the second from the bottom on page 3 there, the salary survey for staffing and budget purposes, right over there.
Okay.
I'd like to tee that up just simply early enough that we can get that in the city manager discussions and the budget processes and move forward, so we kind of get everybody on, if you don't mind that.
Which one is that?
That's the salary survey.
Oh,
okay. Let's put that on the next one.
I think that's also vital to our city staff, to know where we're going with that, too.
Right, okay. And if you have any others that you would like to have put on, please get...
at some point, I think we we probably want to take a look at our goals for 2013.
Okay. Would you like to do that? We have the 23rd, and then we're going to turn around and do one on the 6th of February. You want to make that on the 6th of February?
It's
Give us
okay,
time?
sure.
Okay. And we'll do that on the 6th. Anybody else for any other additions?
Yeah, on that number 12 for the next meeting on the planning consultant, that should be a discuss, take action, and we really need to address the planning consultant issue with Mr. LaRue's firm. You know, he's been working for us for a long time, doing an excellent job, and to the best of my knowledge, we still don't have him under contract, and so I think we need to be taking a look at that in that item number 12.
Okay. Any others just you can get with Lenore on, if you want to add between now and the next meeting?
Mr. Mayor, what I'll do is take this information and readjust and move the priorities that I hear up to the top and those kind of things, and that way I can adjust the form for the next meeting so we can start to pick away and go from the top down, if that's okay.
Perfect, please.
We are meeting on the 6th of February, right?
Yes, we are.
Which item are we doing on that?
That was
The goals.
the goals.
Yeah, the salaries will be next time, right?
The 6th is goals. And if you would, Jeff, when we do this agenda, number 8, the Louise retirement.
Yes, sir.
If we could move that up near the top.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any others?
Yeah. Under the workshop thing, the third one, it's discussions on capital improvement plan. I think that the appropriate process for doing this is to have this go to the Comprehensive Planning Board and have them come up with a draft proposed plan. I believe that Ms. Danielson had done some work on at least starting a CIP, and I think that material should be forwarded to the Comprehensive Planning Board and let them start on that.
I don't agree with that. This is a capital improvement plan. Typically, they're prepared by the finance department or procurement department. This is different than the improvement plan that's in the comp plan. This is a completely different animal.
It shouldn't
doesn't
be
need to
different.
go to a planning advisory board.
It shouldn't be different.
It's totally different.
Well-
The objective of the capital improvement plan is totally different than what's in that comp plan. So maybe there's a misunderstanding about what it is.
My thing would be, is let's have a workshop on it. And
Well, I don't want a workshop
Workshop and
until somebody has done some work to give us a product to look at. I don't want us sitting around starting from scratch to come up with a CIP.
let me ask this, Jeff, where are we on that process that Ann had started? Because I know you guys put a lot of time into that.
Each department head turned in their capital improvement plan. At the last that was said is that's already been done and has been done for a while. And from what I understand, Ms. Samuelson was going to then take all of those plans and merge them together and make one giant city-wide plan and then bring that. That was the plan at the time. But as of right now, I believe in the files, there are the capital improvement plan from each department head in the city that's already been done by the department heads and submitted.
This is not an element of the comprehensive plan. It's a city function, the city document.
And they're actually done out by years too, so all the priority ones are up front and it goes out to 10 years from each department head.
I'd like to take a look at it, or went anywhere, to be honest with you, so we have a feeling of what we have there.
Okay, well, I think that we need to start using the Comprehensive Planning Board the way they're supposed to be used. The fact that it's been hit or miss on a capital improvement plan coming from that board does not mean that we should continue it that way. And there is a place in the comp plan for a capital improvements plan, and I think that they need to come on board and get into the planning process with us on this.
Can we do
A joint workshop?
Well, we've actually, the element of the capital improvement plan for the comp plan has already been approved and sent to the state. So I think you're comparing apples to oranges. This is not the same thing. And perhaps maybe a workshop is the best idea, so a capital improvement plan could be presented from another jurisdiction so that you understand. I've never heard of a capital improvement plan going to the planning advisory board or comprehensive planning boards for a recommendation before it came to a council or commission.
Well, they have here.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. Because everything goes through Mr. Fergus, so.
Excuse me, I'm not
Unbelievable.
taking that. Please, we're directed here, not to the audience or anyone, please. Okay, a workshop, please. All right. And we'll
If you
invite.
really want.
I want to invite, us and the other board.
All right.
And let's take a look at it.
All right.
My feeling on all this stuff is sooner than later.
I think there should be if we're talking about doing a couple of them a month, we already have one for February, maybe this would be the second one that we do in February.
Okay.
And this plan will also be very important in guiding the city on what grants they try to pursue.
I agree. I think the workshop's very good. I think Cheryl's
Workshop.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mr.
and
Mayor?
we had time, please.
I'm sorry, sir. I just wanted to mention that the number 2 here under the workshop, special meetings on the Brevard County Mid-Reach renourishment, just because of the fact that the beachside residents are filling out those forms and having them done, and the county is moving forward with that. It just, when the council is ready for it, we are prepared to also do a workshop and have that information given as far as the future on beach renourishment.
Okay.
We're ready with that, whenever you want.
Let me,
Number 2.
are we time sensitive on that particular one?
Well, somewhat, which is why I brought it up, and we'll get more of that from Alan.
Okay, then let me ask you this, don't mean to interrupt. Is that something we should put on now first before we put on the workshop with the capital improvement? It's time sensitive, that's why I'm asking.
Delay it another month.
I mean, I'm not here to designate what your priorities are, but that is happening now.
Okay.
And there are things going forward, so it's up to you. But
what do we have in February? What's the date, of the first workshop?
6.
That's a council meeting. So we have I don't believe we've set a workshop, did we?
No.
Okay, how about, we want to do it that first week, the 6th or the 7th? The 7th, excuse me?
And what are we doing?
A workshop
On
for
The mid-reach.
the mid-reach?
Mid-reach.
That's fine.
What can staff handle? What can staff handle?
well, before we come up with we come up with a date, at least we know that it's okay. Now we can go back and find out if that date works and get back to you. I mean, I know we're ready to go with it, but I would have to verify with the people that are going to give that from the county, that are going to give that information, that workshop, that the 7th would work for them.
Okay.
It might be not a bad idea to identify 2 dates, and then we can come back at the next meeting and say
7
one of those 2.
or 12? I like the 12th. I can't do it on the 7th, I apologize. The 12th? That's fine. 12th or...
That work for the staff?
I believe so.
Does that give more? Okay. Is there, I'd like to have a question just to Ron, is there a date issue here? I see you, obviously it said something, please.
The last date, thank you for allowing me to speak. The last date that a notary public is going to be at the Pelican Park Clubhouse is the 17th of January for all the beachside residents to sign on to the program. It's already late, but I had talked to Mike McGeary today, and I apologize for whatever has happened here. The last time he was here was in February to explain the program, and he also mentioned that the Sand Renourishment Project, he had wanted to be here sooner than later, but time has gone by. We've got a double issue there with the sand. First of all, the county might be coming up with money. I don't think that's very realistic at this point. And then the Corps of Engineers is moving with their projects subject to funding. But we are signing statements as we speak, and I believe the last day is going to be the 17th. to bring this forward. So if you could move this forward somehow for him to show up here and explain to citizens what exactly they're doing with the renourishment program, it would be greatly appreciated. And there is great apprehension on signing these documents by citizens living on the ocean.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I can make it an agenda item if you want. I mean, if that would be easier for...
We make an agenda item. Ron's saying the 17th is when the citizens can say it. So the only thing I'm saying is if it's not before the 17th to give them the information, then it's probably worth to put it on the 12th and we get the information. I don't, unfortunately, I'm sorry, I don't know
We do it the 16th with, it's not much, but it's something. We do it on the 16th with the other meeting that we have.
Talking about January 16th.
Yeah.
See if he could do it along with stormwater?
Yeah. I mean, it's only a day, but at least it's beforehand if they want to, if they're apprehensive about signing the form and the 17th is the deadline.
That's provided you can get Mike.
That's providing I can get Mike correct, but that would...
Council, want to try?
Sure. 16th.
Try? Okay.
I'll do what I can.
Okay.
Was there a date set for the shade meeting?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just working out the very last details with one more person, but it appears that we are set for January 29th. At 6 o'clock will be the shade.
Okay.
And then at 8 o'clock will be the
Got it.
other meeting.
CRA.
Thank you. Okay. I would have gotten there, I promise.
Can we review what dates we have stuff coming up now?
Got it. Lenore, can you help us there, please? I don't have my phone.
You have, the next meeting I have tentatively scheduled for a stormwater workshop on the 16th. That's to begin at 7 p.m.
Hang on.
Sorry. With the potential of Mike McGarry to present his information on the easement notarization of the beach renourishment potentially. You also have tentatively scheduled...
Not so fast, Lenore, please.
I'm sorry. It is on your calendar, Lorraine, too, on the
What
back.
calendar?
The back of your...
Oh.
Sorry, I should have referred to that first. January calendar. And you'll just have to add a little remarks to that versus the other.
Yeah.
How long are we looking at?
Last page.
How long are we looking at Mike McGarry? Possibly an hour, hour and a half?
I don't see it going more than an hour and a half, but that's just basic preliminary thing.
We started earlier.
If we start that portion of the meeting at 5:30, because you have to advertise the stormwater meeting, do we have to advertise the meeting with Mike too? I mean, if we started
It's a
at 5...
workshop versus a special meeting, I'd have to find out.
I mean, if we can do Mike at 5:30, it gives us an hour and a half before the 7 p.m. already advertised stormwater meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't start at 8 or 7.
No,
We'll be out of here.
By the time you get done with stormwater, it'll be 9 o'clock, and what residents are going to be here at 9 o'clock? They're not going to be here.
We are.
Well, I know.
But
But I mean, if we start earlier, I think we have a better
5:30.
possibility of getting people here.
Okay, if you're looking for that one meeting?
Do what we can.
Okay. Cheryl, do what you can on that? Okay.
5:30, 16th.
Yep.
Mike McGarry.
Mike.
I'll do what I can, sir.
And if he can't come, maybe Virginia can come.
Yeah, or I can do it.
You also have then the next date is,
Go ahead, Lauren, please.
you have January 17th, which council had requested a workshop with the CPAB on the comp plan. Mr. Liu was supposed to be providing the amendments for that meeting. I have that at 7 p.m. on the 17th.
Okay.
Then you have a regular meeting on January 23rd at 7 p.m.
And before that, on the 22nd, is the school board meeting that we're all going to show up for.
School board.
Yes, ma'am.
And what time does that start?
I thought she said.
5:30.
5:30. Okay, and the Friday before that is the 18th, and that's when I need the paper done.
Yeah, and right. 17th and 18th, we'll get it to you. We have a special meeting on the 17th to approve the letter before.
6 o'clock, 6 o'clock on the 17th.
So it can be given to the school board on the 18th.
Yep.
And that's going to be at what time?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
So I have added on the 17th, 6 p.m. special meeting to approve the Brevard County, the letter that will go to Brevard County on the school closure. Going back, I will add Brevard County meeting at 5:30 if you so desire for the calendar. So that way it kind of keeps
Yes.
you guys up to par with who will be attending. Then you have the 23rd, that's the regular meeting at 7 p.m. I don't have anything scheduled that's special above that. On the 29th,
Pictures on the 23rd, right?
yes, also pictures, excuse me.
6:45 or
6:15.
6:15?
I'm going to tentatively schedule to give you enough time.
What date?
On the
23rd.
23rd, we're going to try to get Mr. Stanley to come back in and take my photos. He's done a good job for us with that. I don't know if you're scheduling the IAFF on the 29th.
29th, yes.
And what was that time?
6 to 8 is shade meeting IAFF. 8 to whatever is the CRA.
6 to 8 is shade.
Now, what's the date for the capital improvement plan?
We were gonna,
Haven't gotten there yet.
that was February.
We got into mid-reach talk.
Okay.
We got into that.
Right.
Okay. Would we want to do that on the 12th of February? That would give us a council meeting on the 6th, and then the following week, workshop, the 12th?
Yeah.
Stormwater, does that work for everyone?
So on the
Stormwater?
CIP.
No,
right?
excuse me. Yes.
We'll talk with the CPAB.
Yes,
council
yes, I'm
on
sorry.
CIP.
On the
Yes.
12th?
Yes.
Yes.
At what time?
7? I believe 7's easier for most people. Is that a correct statement for, okay, those workers?
That's the CPAB
Right.
workshop.
12. Okay.
So then my question is, now that we see this in front of this, how's this going to hit staff?
Well, we can do it. We'll do it. We're trying to give, as quickly as we can, give the council as much information as they can upfront to move forward, and we'll do what we need to do.
Yeah, but there comes a point where it's not realistic, and
That's why I'm
Probably hear
trying
about
to,
that tomorrow morning.
that's why I was trying to spread them out. So we have a council meeting on the one week, the next week, if we have the workshop, we're not backing them up nights to nights. And unfortunately, January just turned into that because of some time sensitive and the school board issue.
Okay.
But after that, that was kind of my plan, is we're going to have a workshop that's on the week off of council to give
Okay.
staff some more time.
and that's the way this works out here?
That's what I'm trying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So far in February, anyway.
Yeah,
January.
well, I said January, it's just,
Nothing
yeah,
material,
that's, you know, well, because we missed we set the first council meeting back to tonight, we lose that first week.
Well, is there any part of the January schedule that can be moved to February? I just think that the day of frazzled city staff needs to be over.
Well, again, I think what we need to do is make sure, if Jeff says it can be done, then let Jeff organize it. If he sees it's too much, he tells us, hey, the last time it was too much, we can't do that schedule. I understand. I've talked to, Lenore and I have had many talks on this today, and we want to make sure we can get all the work done and we're not burning them out. So
Okay, and then we'll give them all of March off,
you
right?
got it, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right.
So we only have one extra thing scheduled in February, and that's on the 12th.
Right, we haven't gotten any farther, but you have council meeting the one week, you have the workshop the next week.
Okay.
Okay? All right, moving on to Appointments to boards.
Okay.
Let's take them in order that they're on our sheet, if that's okay with everyone. Beautification Board, we have consider reappointment of Judy Kramer, term ending 109/15, and they have one vacancy for regular
Want a
member.
motion on Judy?
Let me just hold on one second, just make sure we get everything. And then we have consideration of moving Kathy now from an alternate position to a regular position.
Okay, I'll make a motion to reappoint Judy Kramer to a term ending 1/9/15 beautification.
I'll second it.
Okay. Do you want to include in your motion to move Kathy?
No.
Yeah, no, so we to a regular position.
I'll amend my motion.
Thank you.
I'll amend the second.
Okay, a motion by Councilman Brimer, second by Councilman Montanaro. Any further discussion by the board? Okay. Public comment? Hearing none, bring it back to council. Lenore?
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman McGough?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bryan?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Moving on, code and...
So that just leaves one alternate position now open, right, for beautification?
Yeah, I don't see anything else here that fills that.
There's actually two alternate positions open. Because you just moved an alternate into a regular position. There was already a vacant alternate.
That's correct.
Yeah,
There's
so there are two alternate positions now, and no
yeah.
regulars.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. When we're done here, just since you brought that up, if the Beachcaster is coming out and how we let people know we need people on the board, I know in the past, sometimes we use the Beachcaster and we put information out, or we put on the website. If we have a lot of vacancies when we're done tonight where we need things filled, I think we need to start that process again to make sure we get them filled. Okay, Comprehensive Planning Advisory Board. We have no less than 6 members plus.
What about code enforcement?
There wasn't anybody.
Nobody wants that.
There was nobody. I didn't see anybody on code.
What about, wait a minute, hang on a minute.
Not on the back of this sheet here.
Oh, he took that off, okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Comprehensive Plan Advisory Board counts to determine the number of members desired. They have 3 regular members and 2 alternate members vacancy, so a total of 5. Wow.
Okay, I'll make a, do we want a motion?
If you do, yes, if you're going to do multiple, if you could put them all together, if you feel that that's.
Well, we can amend, I'll start it, and I'll certainly be happy to amend it to appoint Mike Badarek to the CPAB. And does anybody else want to?
I would make
John
Fergus
and
and
John.
Alan Lamont
Okay.
also.
Those are my 3 for my motion.
Second.
Okay, we got a second.
We got a motion by Councilman Brimer, second by Councilman Gott. Any comment from council? Hearing none, open up for public comment. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Lenore?
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bryan?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes.
So now that leaves just 2
Two
alternate
alternate members?
positions for,
Yeah.
okay.
And that would leave us, how many are on that board at the present time now? Since we can have 10, how many does adding these give us?
I'll tell you. She's got the list there.
You have 10 total maximum regular members.
Right, how many do we
You
have?
have 2 vacancies for the alternate positions.
Yes.
If you're wanting to be full capacity.
That's 10.
Right, so we're at 10
We're at
right
10,
now?
yes.
And but we're missing the 2?
2 alternates.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. General employee retirement.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Bill Spiegelhalter to a term ending 1/9/15.
Second.
Okay, have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Breimer. Discussion? Hearing none, open it up. Public comment? Hearing none, bring it back to council.
Councilwoman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Okay. Then we need one more for that, correct, at some point? Okay. Fill Dave Clark's
Yes.
term?
Yes.
Okay, so there's one more owed there. Okay. Library Board.
I'll make a motion to reappoint regular member Hope Asher to a term ending 1/20/15, to reappoint regular member Sharon Reynolds Nixon to a term ending 1/9/15, and to reappoint regular member Lucia Watson to a term ending 2/7/15.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Gott. Further discussion from the...
What are the thoughts on Greg Smith? That was his number one choice.
I think we talked to him about, and he was okay with Sampson's Island.
Okay, I just wanted to throw it out there. I'm fine. I just wanted to throw it out there. Okay.
Yep, and I know Greg well. He just a great guy, wants to get involved, so...
Okay, I just wanted to throw it out there, make sure we covered it.
Okay. Excuse me, did I open up for public comment? I might have. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Vote.
Councilwoman Dean?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dodd?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes.
So then that board's full.
Yes. Okay. 1 second here. Okay.
PZAB?
Zoning.
Yep, planning and zoning.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Frank Pertino, term ending 2/17/15 to PZAB.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Councilman Montanaro. Do I hear any comments from council? Hearing none. Open it up to public comment. Hearing none. Bring it back to council for vote.
Councilwoman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dodd?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes.
So now that's just one alternate.
One alternate member? Is that what everyone has? Okay.
Okay, we're going to police. All right, I'll make a motion to reappoint Bill Spiegelhalter, term ending 1/9/15 to the Officers and Firefighters Retirement Board.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Councilman Montanaro. Open up to council comments. Hearing none. Open it up for citizens' comments. Hearing none. Bring it back.
Councilwoman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Okay, and so there we still have
One regular.
one regular to fill the Clark's term, okay? Recreation Board, let me see here. Consider a reappointment.
I'll make a motion to, go ahead.
Let's go through this. We're going to have a regular member to reappoint. We have one vacancy, and when I talked to Carrie earlier in the week, did Mrs. Billman ever respond?
She wants to remain as an alternate.
Okay, great. Okay, that's the question I had.
All right,
I'm sorry, Mark.
That's all right. I'll make a motion to reappoint Colleen McNatt, term ending 2/16/15. Included in that motion would be to appoint Nancy Wilberg to a regular member position, term ending I don't know.
Wait. We've got an alternate, Dwayne Swenson, who should be moved up.
Oh, where's this?
Yeah, he is an alternate.
He's an alternate, but I don't believe he was asked to move. Was he asked?
Well, normally they move up.
Understand. Let me ask one question, because I've been talking to Carrie since you went to the meeting. I know they've been having trouble with getting a quorum for that board. Carrie says it's been very, very difficult. So, not getting us off the subject, but when we do this, again, we do boards, I think we need to make sure that people are attending these meetings, and if they're not, we can fill the positions with people that will. We just cannot not have meetings.
When I talked to Carrie today, she indicated that Dwayne Swenson should move up to a regular member, replacing Angela Rhodes, who has dropped off.
Okay, yeah. She didn't mention that to me Monday, but I might not have
I talked to her
asked her
today.
that question.
I didn't ask
Okay.
that question.
Okay, and then we can appoint Nancy as the alternate on that? Okay.
All right, let me go back. I did the motion to include Colleen McNatt. All right, so help me out the rest of the way, because I'm...
Appoint Dwayne Swenson as a regular member
That'll work.
and appoint Nancy Wilberg as an alternate.
That'll work. That's my motion.
Okay.
Second.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
She's got it.
Motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Councilwoman Gott. Further discussion? Open it up to citizens' comments. Hearing none, bring it back for vote.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Welcome aboard, Nance. Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay. Sampson Island?
I make a motion to reappoint Sandy Carnival to a term ending 1/9/15, and to appoint Greg.
Well, one thing I ran into Greg on the way out, and he didn't realize that Sampson Island meets on it. I think it meets Friday morning, during the day, you know.
That's right. In the school.
No, he meets in the evening. I went to the last meeting. It was at 7. Yeah, 6 or 7
Oh,
o'clock.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, he's fine then.
Okay,
He
good.
was concerned about
Yeah, that'd be a
making
shame to
meetings.
lose him. He's a great guy.
Okay, good.
So,
Perfect.
Greg Smith,
Okay.
For a regular position.
regular position.
Okay. Have a motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Councilman Montanaro. Okay. Further discussion by council?
So it's two regular members, Sandy Carnival and Greg
Great,
Smith.
yeah.
Right.
I didn't know that. I thought they met during the day.
Two
Okay.
alternate seats still open on that one.
There's two alternates.
It needs help with
Two alternates.
membership.
Okay. Okay, open up for citizens' comments. Hearing none. Bring back to council.
Keep up.
Councilman Medina?
Yes.
Councilman Dodd?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. So we got everybody in tonight?
Yep.
Great. Okay, and again, if we have boards that are not being attended, I think, as council liaisons, we need to make sure we bring that forward. And also, after the final votes or wherever we stand on the CRA, I think we need to put our heads together and that's huge, how we're going to do that advisory board. Okay. Okay. All right. Moving on to agenda number 15.
There's another. For the minutes.
Yeah, minutes. I hope I didn't miss anything there. Let's go back and make sure. 15.
Singular or together? I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes of November 28th, 2012, December 19th, 2012, and December 20th, 2012.
As submitted.
As submitted.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Councilwoman Gott to approve the minutes. Discussion from council? Really?
Well, you see the shortened version.
Okay.
Yep, very nice.
Thank you. Any citizens' comments?
Is there a shortened version on YouTube?
I'm not sure.
You mean the web?
YouTube would have,
Yeah, YouTube's gonna have everything, right? Yeah, YouTube's still the same, the audio will remain the same.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
any other comment from citizens? Hearing none, bring it back to council. Council? Lenore?
Councilman Martinez?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bryan?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Motion passes. Any further business? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. We do have the Space Coast League of the City on Monday.
Yes, sir.
And everybody, if we arrange.
Transport.
Are you going?
No, I'll be over the same. But I'll try and get you, I'm gonna try and get you the ones in the future.